Hello, everyone. Good evening. This is Ancapistani Lounge number 40, and we are here with a couple of new guests, including the main one, Patrick from Disenthrall on YouTube. And we got some returning friends, Koi Monster, who's working on her art, I see.
Yeah, should probably unmute my mic.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? How you doing?
Hi.
I'm
all right.
We got Crow. We got
Hello.
Yep. We got Zachary Colley.
Disford.
And Arcana, who's also it's his first time here.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Nobody in live chat yet. Oh well. So Patrick or Arcanu, tell some general information about yourselves and how you became a volunteerist. Whoever wants to start may do so.
I'm Patrick Smith. I do all sorts of things. That would take a while to list, probably. I had a long journey to volunteerism. It all started with trying to figure out where rights come from. And
interesting.
If you follow it to its logical conclusion,
Interesting conundrum.
yeah, you get to freedom. Were you wanting like a longer story? I don't know how much time you wanted me to spend on it.
I don't really care.
Take as much time as you want, really.
Sure. Sorry, I don't mean it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, so I guess I started out Democrat out of high school, but I didn't even really know what that meant. I think everybody coming out of the public indoctrination center is kind of left leaning just by default.
Mm-hmm.
Then I talked to my parents about some economic stuff, so I was like, "Oh, well, that seems to make sense." So they were Republican, but very superficial understanding of everything. And then one day I encountered Judge Andrew Napolitano, and I started reading his books. And one of his books,
he's awesome.
Hell yeah, he is. One of his books called "It's Dangerous to Be Right When the Government is Wrong."
That's wrong.
It's one of my favorite books by him, and he just made the case. It's like, look, if A is wrong, or if A is evil, if A infringes on rights, and the government says A is good, or that you must do A, then the government is wrong. And if you say that loudly, the government will probably destroy your life. And so that's the first kick of the wedge into your thinking in terms of, oh, law, it doesn't equal morality. Well, what does equal morality? What are these things called rights exactly? Where do they come from? Where am I imbued with this magic power that's supposedly going to prevent me from being attacked by the government and other people? So I started with Napolitano, who turns out is an ANCAP. He just doesn't want to admit it for his career, probably.
Yeah.
And went from there. Yeah.
Oh, Iso's here.
Huh? Really?
Iso. That's a first.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I guess in the live chat.
Oh yeah, he is.
Let's do it. Get him in.
Well, I guess it's up to him if he wants to join, I suppose.
Yeah, we can leave him the link on it. We can DM him the link.
Well, I want to know if he wants to come and call first.
Right.
Rose, hello. Jaguar, Lovey Mod, yay, he's here.
Hey.
And Zero, he's here. Hello, welcome back, Zero. Arcano, do you want to tell a little about yourself, general stuff, and how you became volunteerist, as long as you want?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a long story, but I'll try and make it as brief as possible.
All right.
So, yeah, I was just a little kid, probably 6 or 7, and then I realized, something wasn't quite right. Like, people seem very limited as to what they could and couldn't do. And, well, I never really figured it out until I started getting into history class interestingly. And I say it's interesting because school's basically a statist indoctrination center. But then I figured out that there were all these authoritarian regimes who had always been rather brutal with people. And then I realized that the same as happened for the American government. But I didn't discover the anarchy, specifically anarcho-capitalism, until after the 2016 election.
Oh,
What
He's
about
so
the
sick,
what about the
he
2016
won't
election turned you onto it?
Well, basically I saw the temper tantrums people were having, and then I was just looking around and I stumbled upon it by accident.
Yeah. Aso said he won't stay for long. He just wanted to ask Patrick about something.
Yeah, go ahead, Esso.
Am I the only one here with a face cam? Everybody, we got like a cat, a gray man, a lizard, a bow tie.
No, that's not a
lizard. Ooh, you're going on a lizard.
I don't know what you identify as, man.
He's a green wolf, actually.
I'm a
Oh, green
toaster.
wolf. Okay.
I'm a toaster. Respect my
That's
pronouns.
just a topic I came up with.
Yeah, and this is just a rendition of the cross you see on the Christian flag in front of the ANCAP flag.
So we can talk about that if you want.
I'll be right back, guys.
Wait, what? I was just clarifying what this icon was.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, Patrick, how long have you been on YouTube?
4 or 5 years on YouTube in general. I started with gaming and
Oh, nice. What games?
nerdy product reviews, shooters mainly. And it was mainly product reviews. We got into a lot of 3D printing, 3D CAD design, stuff like that. And you put 3 months of effort into a channel like that, and you get hundreds of subscribers really easy. And then I was like, okay, well that's too easy. So then you switch to philosophy, and you work for 3 years and get 1,000. So
Awesome.
All right. Esoteric asked if you're okay with agorism and are interested in stimulating the cancer economy.
if I'm interested in stimulating the cancer economy, I don't know what that means.
Counter.
Oh,
Counter
counter.
economy.
I was like, cancer. Shit.
Hey, was I really throwing my words there?
Agorism is great. Yeah, sure. Why not? Definitely. The only thing I've ever really disagreed with certain specific agorists on, and this is definitely not all of them. I don't even think most of them would say this, but some do. They tend to have this tax victim shaming thing that they like to do, and I've talked about that on my channel before. They like to say that if you put yourself in a life position that ends up resulting in you paying more taxes, and I never say anybody no one pays taxes. Taxes are taken, they're extorted. But people, that's just how people talk about it, right? But if you maneuver your life in such a way as you end up paying or having more taxes extorted from you, then that's somehow bad or your fault or unagoristic of you.
And Cat Pie in the live chat. He says,
Where's the live chat? I'm missing this somewhere. Where is it?
I'll link it to you.
Oh, okay.
It's on YouTube while we're streaming.
Oh,
Hold
okay.
on. I'll link it to you.
Yeah, so
DM.
that's the main disagreement that's the only disagreement I've ever had with certain specific agorists. They really like to victim shame, tax victim shame. But other than that, yeah, that's how I try and live my life as much as possible.
Oh, yeah, Zero. The 2016 election went down between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, and I for capitalism said the currency of the cancer economy is steak memes. Ah. Okay.
He had to make that comment,
Yeah, and Cat he's a funny dude.
What did I start?
Esso has more to say. After the market crashes, I and a few others are moving to Texas and creating a roommate situation where we're going to trade in the local agoras for a living, growing plants, 3D printing, etc. I don't victim shame, but you should avoid the state as much as possible unless you're depriving the state of revenue.
Yeah, that part about the roommate situation. It's actually sort of what Malin wants for us, isn't it, Marianne, up in Wisconsin?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you don't want to give too much away about that, though.
Yeah.
That hasn't even picked up off the ground yet.
No,
it's
I have to get there first.
Yeah, it's a business type of project that some of us and our friend Malum have been working on, talking about this discussion of ideas for a while now, but we don't want to give too much away on it.
Not till it gets off the ground.
Yeah, not till it gets off the ground.
Well, in response to, you read a comment, I think you said it was Esso or something like that?
Yes.
Texas, if you had to order the states into a list of places you'd want to move to be relatively free, Texas is one of the best, I think, in my opinion. It's got at least the cities, like Dallas especially, not Austin. That's like the cancer butthole of the state. But it's got the cancer economy is strong in Austin. That's what I'm trying to say. So Dallas is good. It's got like an entrepreneurial spirit, a lot of very strong, motivated, driven people here to succeed and be successful. The flaggatry and blue line gang worship is the biggest downside for sure.
Yeah, I figured. Zero says about the 2016 election. Did you guys know that Donald means world ruler?
I did not know that.
And what language does that translate from? SO says Texas has a temperate climate, ideal for gardening.
Yeah.
It is.
The Midwest has that sort of thing too. I would know because I live here.
Yeah, but this has got me thinking. On one hand, yeah, Esso's right, and we should probably move to somewhere that'd be safer. But I can't bring myself to leave my home, and to that end, I'm trying to figure out ideas for sort of a bunker.
Not a bad alternative. Yeah, best to you of luck on that. Zero says, in response to my question, what language does Donald to English mean to world ruler? Which language is that? He says Celtic, if I'm not mistaken.
Celtic. Yeah, so, like what? Would that be Irish Gaelic?
Irish, Welsh, that sort of thing.
Irish, Welsh. Okay.
Also, Gaelic is derived from how the Celts were living in Gaul, where modern day Germany or France was. Where modern day Germany and France are. That's the general area Gaul's located at.
I need a cool cartoon character. This isn't fair.
I'm sure you'll come up with one eventually.
I do commissions, by the way.
I got one.
I'm going to inappropriately shill on Marianne's stream again and say I do commission.
So it says that he's from Washington. So bottom line is that he has to get out of here.
And again, on my state too, dude.
Yeah.
There's my character. There we go.
Awesome. All right, everyone's equal here.
Which character? My character here. This is my character. You must pay royalties if you want to use her.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, that's cool. I like that one. That's pretty cool. That looks like a robot in a tuxedo.
Let me look. Where is it? Oh, that's nice.
Right here.
Okay, that's cool.
Oh, That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, I used this one when I was setting Lauren Southern straight on the borders.
Oh boy.
All right,
Life comes at you
and
fast.
Yeah, Lauren Southern has a. Yeah,
Yeah.
Lauren Southern has a. Go ahead.
all right. Just quick from the live chat from Ancapistani. It's both amazing and depressing at the same time. 2016 woke up quite a few people, but also made the closet status double down. True that.
Dave
That's
Cullen.
where I remember you from. I knew I saw that avatar somewhere, he says. I guess.
Oh wow, really? Okay. It was my first and only attempt at using an avatar.
Well, that's pretty cool.
I never used it again.
Until now.
Yeah. I like his attitude. He's got the frowny face going on, and that finger flex is strong.
Yes.
Finger flex.
Yeah, I'm still working on my response to Dave Cullen.
Oh, what Dave do?
Dave Cullen keeps flopping back and forth between market means like blockchain and statism. He keeps he's controlled opposition, put it that way.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate.
SO said that he thinks who's the factual feminist again? I forgot what her name was. Christina Hofsummer. He thinks she's controlled opposition as well.
I mean,
from what I remember, anyways. If SO's still there, he can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I like some of David's content, but his content regarding things like the singularity or libertarianism or aliens, I just can't agree with him there.
Like aliens as in from outer space or illegal aliens?
Yeah. Outer space aliens.
Oh, okay.
From Zero on Lauren Southern. Speak of the devil. What do you guys think about what's happening in Europe? I still have mixed feelings about it.
Is that a zero? I thought that was the null symbol.
No? Oh, I didn't know. I've been calling him Zero all this time, so I didn't know. Sorry.
So, in regards to aliens, what does he think of aliens? Like,
he thinks the alien visitation's bogus, but he doesn't understand that if aliens developed interstellar travel, then chances are they've managed to reconcile relativity and quantum field theory.
Yeah, I'm not sure where to stand on that. I do believe alien life is plausible, but we don't have any solid proof they visited us, so.
Okay.
Because of the Gooberman.
That's why the Gooberman is why aliens don't fucking visit us.
Okay, let's just answer No's question.
Well, I think concerning the Yellow Vests protests, I think it's quite chaotic there. But I guess it's I don't know, it's really crazy and disturbing over there because I remember seeing Truth Stream Media on how places of business were just shut down, like at least a whole block. And there were all these protesters just walking around, and there were some that threw Molotovs in cars that were only allowed to burn for a certain point before they were put out. It was just really strange.
Yeah, it does sound pretty freaking weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Attack Helicopter Cat, our good friend on Discord, showed me that from the channel, and he compared that is like controlled he compares the protests in France as controlled opposition compared to the violent riots that happened in the Ukraine.
Yeah. Eyeball said most of the skeptic community is controlled opposition. Yeah.
Nice. Agreed.
When have they not been? Even before they delved into the whole.
I thought he was talking about angry plumbers or something.
What?
The septic community.
Yeah. Oh yeah, please don't get me started on the skeptics.
Don't insult Mario. Mario is a very respectable man.
Uh,
Wallanu?
anyway.
Are you talking about Wallanu? He's very septic.
What about Jacksepticeye? Jacksepticeye is pretty cool too, though.
Yeah, anyway. When have the quote-unquote skeptics not been controlled opposition? They were always pushing for big government even before they got involved in the whole social justice thing. Ugh. Yeah, No said, I don't think the Yellow Vest respect private property. Yeah, you don't.
Depends on the protesters. Some of them appear to be Antifa. Some of them appear to be ANCAPs. Interestingly enough.
Yeah. So I've heard.
It's a mixture.
Yeah.
ANCAP in
Most
France?
is just everyone who's sick and tired of France being all shitty.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any evidence of ANCAPs in France. I would love to see
there
that.
was one guy who was wearing a Bitcoin. He said buy Bitcoin on his vest there.
Yeah, on the back of his vest.
But then again, he's not. That doesn't necessarily make him an ANCAP. But he's either an ANCAP or an I can't pronounce it.
Agorist.
Agorist, yes.
Well, we have Fintronaut.
Yeah, but he's from Finland. I don't know if the protesting has spread to there yet, but I know it's spread to the UK and Germany, according to Pineapple.
Yeah,
and
Pineapple, get the fuck out of there, dude.
Yeah, I hope it spreads to Finland, because there's this one guy on DeviantArt, BronzeHeart92, that keeps treating Finland like it's the best thing in the world and that nothing could go wrong.
Oh,
If the protest,
no, that is the worst
if the
mistake.
protest spread to Finland, I'm the one that'll have the last laugh.
Yeah, that's the worst thing you could ever assume, is assuming that this will never happen to me or to where I live.
yeah, that's utopian thinking.
Also, like, I'm in one of the worst places in my own country, or in one of the worst states I could be in the United States, so I gotta get the hell out of here.
California?
Nope.
Oregon.
Nope. Hey, I'm walking here.
Washington, D.C. Oh, yeah, New York. Okay.
Oh, Tech Helicopter Cat wants on the call.
Which is worse, Washington or New York?
Yeah. Eyeball said, this is the problem with riots, as opposed to other forms of discourse. I can't get behind the collateral damage of the Yellow Vests. I'm definitely sympathetic, though. Yeah, I'm sure we can all agree, right? What do you think, Patrick?
What was the question? Sorry. I was distracted by Discord.
Oh, I was just commenting on the comment that Eyeball left. This is the problem with riots, as opposed to other forms of discourse. I can't get behind the collateral damage of the Yellow Vests. I'm definitely sympathetic, though.
Oh, absolutely. Are you guys aware of the guillotine march that we had, the Yellow Vest guillotine march in Dallas recently?
Oh no!
What?
Ooh, yes.
You don't know? Oh, I thought this is why you wanted to. I thought this is why you wanted me on the show. We
Vest did bring it. I've heard that they brought out guillotines.
Oh God, no!
We built a guillotine in my front yard, and
oh wow, really?
got all the gun activists in the area to push that motherfucker straight to the Dallas County Courthouse, and we I gave a speech. We had a couple other people who gave speeches in front of the guillotine. It was a great day, but but to answer your question, part of the problem with the Yellow Vest March is that you're instantly associated with the French Yellow Vest, and I mean the whole reason to push the guillotine. Actually, fun fact on the guillotine shots that you see on social media are fake. Those are photoshopped. They didn't actually push a guillotine. So that makes the people in Dallas the only ones in the world that have pushed the guillotine, for the record.
The only
But,
ones. Oh man, that's gotta
yeah,
stay.
represent.
Yeah.
So the French are still wimps in this case.
yeah. So we're a little more based than them. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, so we didn't want to be associated with them and their movement for the reasons that you mentioned in your question, right? It's a violent mob. They're trashing massive amounts of private property, endangering and injuring peaceful people. And I'm not talking about the cops, of course. I'm talking about actual peaceful people. And there's an equation to putting on these marches. You have to have something that gets the media attention. Otherwise, there's literally no reason to do these events. So there's a trick there. It's an art form. You have to use the symbols of something that will get attention and then point that attention at an actual freedom message. And we successfully did that. We have this thing called jury nullification. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that term.
Oh, I'm aware of it.
Familiar.
Yeah.
So through this march, we got our news here to literally define jury nullification, saying that, by joining a jury and voting not guilty, even if the person is technically guilty of, whatever law says they are guilty of, you can set them free. We got them to say that on the news, and so many people are now asking about it and going to the jury nullification info. It's been great. So,
yes.
It was a successful co-opting of France's violent movement for a good purpose, anyway.
Yeah.
Well, Malum's online. So yeah, I'm seeing getting him in here.
Yes, do it.
Yeah. I don't know if Attack Helicopter Cat still wants to join.
Oh yeah. While we're on the topic of yellow vests, Filthy Heretic recently put out a video talking about how Macron, who we humorously called macaroni,
yeah, we joke about him being
gave the okay, was it, for basically chemical warfare, something like something like tear gas,
except much stronger.
Yeah,
but without Gooberman.
Without Gooberman, who will poison us?
Yeah, without Gooberman, who would
poison us
gas us?
That is far more deadly than a thing that can already kill you.
Yeah. There's a shot of the group that we had at the courthouse.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me look. I can't. Oh, someone highlight that because that's tiny.
So the other big difference between our group and the French is that we are all highly armed. So,
oh yes,
and
I don't think we have it any other way.
And we don't ask permission. We literally called the cops about 12 hours before everyone showed up out there, just to not even to let them know, but to say, hey, we're going to be marching in the middle of the street unless you move some of these poles out of the way. We just wanted to let you know. Yeah, it was good times.
Well, a bunch of people in there.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. What else is there to talk about?
Null says more about France providing the means to your revolutionary struggle since 1789. Ancap Eyes said on the picture with the guillotine, that's amazing. I agree.
I like that guy's pom-pom.
Well, good news. Malum's gonna join us.
Yay.
Yay.
Now we're really gonna have a good time. Comedy time.
Yeah, Malum's a very interesting guy. He's the head of that project that we mentioned that's going to get started in Wisconsin eventually. And I'm sure he has like some interesting questions to bring up and such.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
it's also the dairy capital of America, so Crow will fit right in.
Yes,
And
I will,
beer.
because I'm planning on making cheese just on my own.
And beer.
And selling it.
Mhm.
Beer is better than cheese.
What's the point of making cheese if you're not going to sell it?
Yeah.
So here's a question for the group. Why is it that so many YouTubers use avatars?
Because it's more interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's more interesting.
Well,
Definitely.
that and
But,
there's this thing called hiding your identity and, staying anonymous. Pretty much.
Show us your face, you coward.
Let's see.
Uh.
Showing our face means, like, doesn't that
putting us at risk of
Yeah.
being doxxed.
of being
or something.
doxxed? Yeah, doxxed. DDoS.
Especially since we hold very unpopular opinions.
Well, yeah, we do. We know we have a very unpopular opinion to express, and it would be very hard for us to express it showing our face.
Like what? What's the most unpopular opinion that you hold?
Taxation
Oh.
theft.
Oh,
I have a lot
I've
of
stood on
unpopular
stages
opinions.
in large crowds and said that. You don't need avatars for that.
Fair enough.
Come on, give us another reason.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
for
weak
me-
stuff. You got to do better than that.
Well, for me, I use one because it's a gray alien and it conveys how I feel about the world. I don't feel like I belong. I don't feel like anything's right.
Mm.
I'm sorry to hear
This
that.
seems to be on the
It
right
kind of
ear.
reminds me of a character I came up with recently.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Well, I can't say too much, but basically, alien, or technically, they are an alien. Or it's about, the aspect is transhumanism, more like it. So, like, they left Earth a while ago, and then they come back. One of them comes back, and basically they say, like, they're like a villain, but like even they're like, what is this nonsense? It's like, you know that meme where it shows the guy from King of the Hill where he screams, "You make me envy the deaf and the blind." That's basically what she does.
Transhumanism's good.
As long as the state doesn't back it, geez.
Yeah, I can't wait for transhumanism to become a thing.
And then my comic will be dated. Yeah. But then again, it's like, it would probably be harder to achieve what they are, so I can't spoil too much.
Yeah, Eyeball said, anonymity. It's an important line of defense in the days of leftist doxing.
Yeah. Like, people get fired from their jobs for stupid shit, so.
Yeah, for the littlest
Yeah,
of
he
things
also,
you can be arrested for. You could be fired from your job.
And like,
Yeah, he
even if you're
also asked,
And
Also-
for unpopular opinions, you can be arrested. It's been done.
The job one is probably the best reason I've just heard. So that is a valid reason.
like, the thing is, even if you're
Well, yeah. If for
Guys,
me
please quit
specifically,
interrupting me.
being in private security, it's a risk for me to say anything whatsoever.
yeah, anyway, Eyeball also asked, Patrick, do you see a collapse of the state inevitable? And if you do think there's a way and time to transition, or do you think it might go the way of Somalia?
If you do
I hope it doesn't go the way of Somalia.
Oof, yeah.
I think the collapse of a state is inevitable. The state, I don't know if you mean this, but to me, the state means all of them. I don't know
It'll
if that
probably happen.
I don't know if the collapse of all of them is inevitable, and I don't know if they will be. Well, I'm sure that for a long time they'll be recreated in other forms in the future. I think the cycle is revolving faster and faster. I do think there's a difference between now and in the past, though, that is hopeful. I think the value of life is much, much higher today than it was 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago, 2,000, 4,000, 5,000 years ago, human life was bargain barrel cheap. It was useless. It was just thrown away like trash, and no one cared. And, you know, starting in probably 1800s, people actually started to care a little bit, at least, about this human life thing. And now, especially like in this country, people are so separated from violence that when they actually encounter it, it turns them off. It turns them off quickly, viscerally. That's an awesome thing. So if we do lose the current incarnation of state, I'm hoping that will help keep the blood down. I think if it happened today, I think we're getting another state tomorrow or next week or in a couple weeks. I think there's a race that we are running where we have to hit critical mass of woke people before that happens, because I think it will happen. Does that answer your question at all?
Hopefully it does.
Yeah, but wait till the people who are turned off by violence, wait till they find out that the state is responsible for it.
Yeah.
That is. Or making things just worse. I mean, there was always violence. We had to be violent to survive back in the nomad days, but it's like nowadays we don't need to be violent to survive unless it's against something horrible, like, oh, I don't know, the state. Or, you know, other violent people that the state does not help but protect us from.
They've done a brilliant job, though, of obfuscating the state. Like the vast majority of the people don't think in terms of the state doing things.
Yeah.
Like, well, no, excuse me. They think in terms of the state doing things when it's good, because they want to be a part of that. They want to be in that collective. When the state does something bad, it's not the state, because they're a part of that, and they don't want to be held accountable when it does things bad. When bad things happen, it's specific individuals. It's specific individuals that get held accountable. They get kicked out, and new ones come in, and the state lives on, you know, with a clean slate, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I suppose someday we will eventually defeat the idea of the state once and for all.
Agreed.
Someday.
I hope. Yes.
I would love that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That will be a day long.
If we're particularly unfortunate, then something tells me the idea of transhumanism will be realized before the idea of anarchy as being a permanent way of life.
Because, yeah, that's both an amazing and a terrifying thing to think about, transhumanism.
And that's why I do. That's why I do everything I do, and I'm assuming that's why you guys do what you do with your YouTube channels. The whole point is to run this race to fix the future, especially for my children. That's the main driving force for me, is fixing the future. And to do that, I have to wake as many people up as I can while I'm alive.
Yeah. Oh, Malum's here.
Yay. Malum, you there?
Dude.
At the very least, I want to find a way to extend my lifespan so I could see.
Hey, everyone.
Deeper into the future. Hello.
Hi, Night Shift.
Hey, what's up?
Hi. Yeah, we got Patrick Smith from Disenthrall in here.
What up?
Oh, Malum. Did you see
Malum is doing its shenanigans again.
Yeah.
Oh, if somebody else is gonna have their camera on, I'll turn mine back on too.
Yeah.
Cool.
Go ahead. Yeah.
What are
Hey,
you
Malum.
doing?
Hey, Malum, did you run into a wall recently?
What?
It's hard to stay up one line.
Jeez.
The wall.
Yeah, that one.
Go find
All in all, you're just another brick in the wall.
Yeah, I like that.
I was thinking about the border wall, but ultimately that's a futile effort because they'll just use boats.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have sea borders as well.
Yeah.
We do?
We do.
Yeah, we do.
Okay,
Anyway,
yeah.
Plenty.
Yeah, the reason Malum does that sick wall thing is to poke fun of the political atmosphere.
Yeah.
Right now,
I
he's
don't-
just going off the creepy thing for. Yeah.
I don't think a blockade using naval ships would be feasible.
9.
It might swap.
Attack helicopter cat is asking, is Trump's wife a wallman? Instead of woman, wallman.
Oh, man.
That's cute.
Oh, no.
Oh, night shift. Was there something you wanted to ask Patrick?
Oh no. I'm good.
You want to stay for dinner? Sorry.
2018 was a crazy year. Done a lot of wild stuff. If you guys want to talk about any of it, I'm
That was
ready and willing.
crazy.
Yeah, there were some good and there were some crazies. Crazy moments.
We fed the homeless in defiance of law.
Wow.
Any rainwater.
We open carried guns to keep the cops away. That was good.
Good.
I ran for not governor of Texas. We can talk about that if you want. A little foray into bullshit politics.
Sure.
I've all just said, on another note, if Trump wants a wall so bad, why does he just go to Walmart?
Yeah, Walmart's got all your border
Very
protection
punny, guys.
needs.
Very punny.
Actually, I want to ask this question. If there was a real life purge, if one night there was an actual purge, what would you all do during that time?
Hide in my basement, probably.
I'd obtain a gun first chance I get.
Or yeah, that.
Grab a gun and hide.
Yeah, exactly.
Hit and run tactics if necessary.
Ow, ow, quit it, Mount. Ow, 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 quit it. Ow, others. Ow, ow.
What's going on?
I think we got an NPC on.
Oh my.
I'm pretty.
Yeah, Mount was doing the whole knife thing. Ow, 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 ow.
I mean, people.
Yeah, it's a joke he and I have.
People think that we would be helpless against the military, but there's two things to take into consideration. One, a lot of the military's hardware, like things like bombers and missiles, they were designed to be used against other militaries, not against rioting civilians.
Well, here's the other thing: you can pretty much purchase everything they have on the black market. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Don't know how to prevent that, too.
Yeah, Mal has his microphone on. I guess he wants to say something. Oh, no. Oh, there it is.
I swear to God, I hate this hoodie. It looks like I'm part of the. It looks like I'm part of a Spec Ops KKK. I don't like it. That's just wrong on so many levels.
Oh, okay, KKK with me.
Don't you want to put a ball around that?
Honestly, it's perfectly okay, KK, to hate that.
That's fun.
I guess if the purge happened, it would probably just be another Tuesday, and we'd have a barbecue or something. I have enough well-armed friends that we'd be just fine.
Yeah, as long as by barbecue, you mean low and slow smoking the meat, I'm fine with you calling it a barbecue. Otherwise, it's just grilling. The southerner meat.
Well, no, and on that note, with the whole purge thing, I hope people wouldn't all stay home, because if there was an actual purge, I would literally, like, right in front of my place, I would just set up a shop and just sell, like, cannabis and hemp stuff, illegally hunted meat and fish, raw milk, rainwater, organically grown crops, pretty much everything.
Homemade lemonade.
Yeah, exactly. Like, everything that was, like, illegal throughout the entire year to sell. I just set up, I'd hire some private security guys, and I would just set up shop like right in front of my place and just wait for some customers. That's what I do on purge.
Rainwater too.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I don't know if it's legal to collect it here in Indiana. I'll have to look that up.
What the fuck? What's with the illegal rainwater?
Because
stupid.
corporations probably.
You're
It's a stupid rule.
Mike,
Corporations are cancer.
How dare you?
Guys, let's not talk over each other, please.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
wanted to
let
say
me
several
finish
things,
that.
but everyone's
So-
like,
So here's the thing about the purge.
Okay, Milo.
If the purge were to happen, most likely what would happen, keep in mind that you can't target politicians.
that's awfully
Oh
convenient.
shit, that thing is hot. Having that mask
I
on.
just love how they say it's
Yeah, so you
anarchy,
cannot.
but I
What?
love how they say it's anarchy, but it's like literally a state enforced thing.
Yeah, it's legalized murder, is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh man. Essentially, here's the thing about the purge. Even if it were real, anybody that's got money, anybody that has anything, imagine what would happen if Antifa had their access to the purge.
Oh god.
Yeah, they could
Oh.
literally steal tanks and whatever, and they could use that against the people. So they'd be right out there outside of like Fort Knox and other military bases, and they'd be holy fuck. So
They do a lot of the work for us.
yeah, no, they would be targeting anybody any neighborhood that has that works for a living. They would be targeting because they're capitalist workers.
So much
Or they're
for
supporters of
supporting-
capitalism.
My
If you're
bad.
white, you're pretty much going to get wiped out.
Oh great.
Yeah, I know it's a sensitive subject, but yeah. And we're just talking about like the whole left versus right thing. With the leftism blame, the whole Black Lives Matter. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that formed an organization. You'd also have people like Proud Boys, the right-wing organizations,
Never heard
also
of 'em.
teaming up, and basically they'd be training the whole freaking year for that day.
Yeah,
We've never
so much for standing up for the working class. They go
Yeah.
ahead and kill them.
Yep.
Yeah, Antifa would attack everybody. You'd have Proud Boys probably making precision strikes against Antifa and other such groups who just joined.
Actually, no. Just let Antifa and the Proud Boys go at each other. They'll take care of the problem for us by wiping each other out.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, and all we have
Guys.
to do is have the popcorn and enjoy the show.
Yep.
Guys, did you see that one news article about Black Lives Matter getting in a fight with Antifa members because they mistook them for cops?
Oh, they didn't do nothing.
Oh, the crime of treason. Technically speaking, trying to secede would equal a crime of treason, meaning that we could take over a territory during the purge and sign it into effect that we are now a legal nation. to ourselves.
Yes.
So, and then say the purge is no longer active. Get the fuck off our property.
Problem.
Hippity
Get
hop.
the fuck out of that Ancapistani.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Matt?
This is Ancapistani now. Get the fuck out of here.
Guys, you guys remember we have to legitimately purchase the land, right?
Or at least get people to agree to it.
With what?
Yeah, exactly. The
Well-
land. If we were to secede from the nation, we need to.
You could go to an existing anarcho-capitalist commune and
Do those exist?
Those actually exist?
yeah.
Where?
I mean,
Where? Seriously.
I can't name a few examples off the top of my head, but I think one of them is called Liberland or Lieberland.
That's
like
over in Europe.
You're talking about Lieberland. So
Oh, I know
Lieberland is.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Lieberland.
Yeah, Lieberland is basically a military or demilitarized zone. Basically, it's neutral territory that doesn't technically fall under any jurisdiction between two nations. So it was basically a case of actual anarchy. Well, because this area was piece of territory was a demilitarized zone, neither side could do anything. They could essentially just take over the land because neither side could neither side could have genuine territorial claims over this area. It's basically unclaimed land. That's how Liberland got started.
Ooh.
Cool.
There's still a monarchist government, but they have things in place where essentially if anybody tried to take over or increase the power of the government, which was not constitutional, the people could riot or could take over the country and basically reset. So it had its built-in reset rather than it's based heavily off the U.S. Constitution, but it has a series of resets.
Oh, I also just remembered, like, I can't believe I forgot, but there was some town in Mexico, or a few of them in Mexico, that are actual anarchists, so...
Yeah, Chiron.
From what I've heard, those are anarcho-communists that are majorly a communist thing, and it's already gotten overtaken again. What they did, if it's the one I'm thinking of, the town you're referring to is featured in Vice. From what I've heard, that the Mexican army already retook it. But essentially what happened is they disarmed the police because of the level of drug crimes that was going on. They disarmed the police, they disarmed the politicians, and basically kicked everybody's asses out of there, including the drug lords. The drug lords tried to take over, and they basically fought back. Or during the few times they tried to infiltrate back in. So it's gotten like pretty much all crime dropped. Like they operated typically on an ANCAP principle. How they're gonna fare economically, on the other hand, I don't know. But from what I've heard, and it's unsubstantiated at the moment, is that the Mexican government has taken control of it again.
No.
But it has shown that
No.
So I hate saying that, but you can find this in the no matter what you try to do with under peaceful revolution, it's never going to happen. It's never going to stay in unless you're willing to stand and fight.
Yeah, ideas
like
still good. They have to be mandatory.
Yeah. In another case, this is a case with Michael Oliver, I want to say, or Oliver Michaels, I don't remember. Basically, an immigrant into the U.S. who made his fortune on real estate. He basically rags to riches story, and he tried to create a libertarian society based on the Minerva Reef and another area. I can't remember the other reef, and they called it the Republic of Minerva. And it was a libertarian society. They had minted their own gold coins, and the Kingdom of Tonga, or Republic of Tonga, I can't remember, based on the Minerva Reef. I think it was Tonga. Anyway, kingdoms. The Kingdom of Tonga went in, attacked basically with gunboats, and the libertarians that were stayed fled.
How
They didn't fight back? They didn't fight back?
Say that again?
They didn't fight back?
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they were attacked.
Well, but I mean,
they were attacked. No casualties. The libertarians just ran.
Oh, that's a violation of the NAP. They have the right to fight back.
But they
didn't. See, they didn't set up any infrastructure at that point. It was just a couple of sandy atolls. That's all it was. That's all it really was. The guy sunk $100 million into creating two nations, and after the Kingdom of Tonga, they essentially let it wash away.
That's bullshit.
Shit, you not. Yeah, they let it wash it away, and from what I understand, it's still in fight in the UN as of today between the Fiji Republic, the Kingdom of Tonga, and the Republic of Minerva, which was actually a libertarian society. So,
yeah, but the state's not going to last much longer for lives. God, I swear to God, if I get interrupted one more time, I'm leaving.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No.
I'll be back.
I'll wait. Because I can't remember what I was going to say now. Oh, right now I remember what I was going to say. Freak. I mean, the state's not going to last much longer now that they got the cryptocurrency and the internet's being decentralized. It's like, and there's other competitions. They can't keep up with the innovations.
All right, is everyone finished? Because Patrick has because Patrick has pretty much been forgotten on lately.
Sorry about that, Patrick.
I'm good. I'm just listening. It's all good.
Does anyone have anything to add to what I said?
Hmm.
I'm more pessimistic. I don't think the state is on its way out soon, and I've lost a lot of faith in Bitcoin. I'm sorry.
Well, not Bitcoin. There's other cryptocurrencies, dude.
Bitcoin isn't exactly the best example of a good crypto.
Yeah, I know
That's
that.
what I've heard now.
There's other cryptocurrencies though.
Here's something people miss. Let me throw this kind of rant at y'all, and you can comment on it because it'll probably trigger somebody here. So Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency technology in general, is a very communistic technology.
What? That's bullshit.
Really? Why do you say that?
Ooh,
what?
This is interesting.
Would you like me to make the argument?
Yeah, I want to hear this argument.
Okay. No one owns it. It's intellectual property, which is not a valid form of property. It's not even really property at all. You just have, possessions stored on media or patterns stored on media. The abolition of that kind of property is a communist wet fucking dream. The community makes communal democratic decisions on the direction of the technology. Communist wet dream. If you compare that to a centrally owned or privately owned technology company, there isn't even a contest. Like I'm a technology entrepreneur. I'm a CTO. I've had 3 startups now that have all been successfully turned over, and I look at the state of cryptocurrency in general, and it's in shambles. Like anytime anybody wants to do anything, a bunch of nerds get half chubs about the direction that they want to personally go, and they argue about it for a year. It doesn't go anywhere. And then at the very end of that, they fork it 17 different ways. Everybody loses money and faith in the technology. That's exactly how communes work. A bunch of people get together with good intentions. They all argue because there's no one in charge. They all argue over which direction they think the commune's resources should go. It ends up fracturing into little, splinter groups that all go their own separate ways. It suffers from most of the problems communes and communistic ideals and groups go.
That doesn't really ESO did an entire debunking of that though, because the thing is like, fuck me, what was I gonna say? With
Seems like there's a valid point there. Makes
yes,
sense,
but at the same time, with what ESO
explains the Ethereum Classic, Bitcoin Cash.
Compare it to some of the coins that are more centrally controlled. Obviously, none of them are centrally controlled because anybody can fork any of them. But the ones that are more centrally controlled from a development path perspective, I would point out maybe, and I'm not endorsing these coins, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, Monero has a more centrally controlled path that allows them to iterate the technology faster and not fork every 5 seconds. That's like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that people see this decentralization technology as the end in and of itself, not just the tool to reach an end. The end that we want to reach is freedom. Maybe freedom doesn't look like decentralization. Maybe freedom looks like a privately owned coin that has built up trust in the market over a lot of years through competition and usage and rating and all the wonderful things anarcho-capitalists like to talk about, and is able to centrally control, manage, and iterate that technology faster than its competition, better than its competition. You can't not have that with a community fighting for constant voting, like voting control, public opinion control over a technology.
So then why is the mainstream media constantly fear-mongering about it?
Fear-mongering, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know how to answer that.
Not only that, the very fact that it's decentralized means that there is no central point for the government to attack.
Yeah, that's
Bingo. That is the advantage of decentralization. As long as the state exists, decentralized technologies are powerful. But after the state is abolished, it becomes an impediment. Like the credit card processing networks are not decentralized. Their centralization and central management allows them to process millions of transactions very quickly because they control the servers and resources in a centrally structured and planned way. When the government exists, you're absolutely right. With this, when the state exists, there's a mole for the government to whack, And so we need this decentralization. It's like the commies have this like secret tool that's only useful when there is a large state power in control. It's this really twisted thing. When the state's gone, we won't need it anymore. That's all I'm saying.
What do you mean we won't need it anymore?
We won't need decentralized tools anymore. I'm saying that
because then the state will come back.
I'm saying the utility. I'm not sure. I think you'd have to make that argument.
Right,
I don't see how that follows.
Fiat currency has no value, dude. You do realize that, right?
I'm not arguing for fiat currency.
I know, but it's like we can't use fiat currency after that because it has no value. We'd have to use something. Maybe if it's not Bitcoin, we certainly wouldn't be using fiat currency.
Well, you could try and trade in fiat currency. I don't know if anybody would accept it.
Yeah, that wouldn't go very well.
No.
So Patrick, let me basically paraphrase this first to make sure I've got the understanding. So essentially what you're saying is that these decentralized currencies are great for tearing down the state, but eventually when the state is gone, these decentralized currencies are going to slow down the development of technology, and thus it's actually going to hinder society. Am I correct?
How's it going to do that though?
I wouldn't say that it's great at tearing down the state. I think it's currently great at evading the state because there's no central thing that the government can whack and destroy and control.
Yeah. Well, in that case, as long as more people, what I'm saying is that it's great. The act of evasion and the fact that the state cannot acquire the funds, just transferring people over to this new type of currency will mean that the state no longer has any funds coming in. So right now, it's not really doing anything against the state, but in the future, it probably will end up as time goes on and more people adopt things like adopt cryptocurrencies. Eventually, the state will find out that it has less and less funding and will either do one of two paths: get smaller, which is highly unlikely unless you're able to get vote in gradualists, which is also highly unlikely, given that most of them end up, turning against their principles. And then you have, or you have the possibility of needing to go into a war because the state decides, I'm going to force these people to do it anyway, and people are getting slaughtered. As a result, the state becomes ever more totalitarian in order to maintain its own survival, and in that case it's at its death throes and lashing out.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, I'm not taking an entire shit on the entire technology. It's definitely useful. My last company was involved in crypto. It was a loan automated trading bot, and I'm very invested in it myself. I think it's useful for us to realize the nature of the beast, and why that decentralization isn't the end goal. It's the means to freedom now. Yeah, and it might not be necessary when we're not trying to hide from a massive state. That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I get what you're saying. See, I'm just trying to get a clarification because gathering information is the only way you're going to figure things out ultimately.
Yeah, but by the time the state
probably hang on.
Somebody's trying to say something over and over. What was it?
In which case, we'll probably turn to things like gold, silver, copper, things that are physical that at that point anyone can make, and then people trade with it because we're going to need some sort of commodity.
Somebody kept trying to ask something or say something, and I was never
trying to say something. I was saying because the thing is with cryptocurrency now, it takes forever to what is it? Like do a transaction with it for say. Like it could take days. Like by the time though the state falls, I'm pretty sure we could end up innovating like a faster system though.
Well, I would just say that hash technology, hash chain, Bitcoin, blockchain technology is literally the least efficient database technology ever invented.
Why
because it has to be based around decentralization. Otherwise, it loses its utility. Its utility is decentralizing trust and evading government centralized control. We already have extremely fast transaction technology in existence now. MasterCard, Visa, my checking card. These technologies exist. They're just centralized. If we get rid of the state, now there's competition even between these credit card processing networks, these clearinghouse networks. So we already have the technology. We just need to get rid of the centralized power structure. That's all. I think I don't want to keep repeating myself. I think people put too much stock in decentralization as an end to itself.
So
something you might want to look into is something known as hash graph, if you haven't heard of it already.
I've never heard of that.
It's like
Yeah, go ahead.
Supposedly hash graph is like the next step of the blockchain technology, in that it speeds it up significantly, kind of like, you make the purchase, you swipe a credits like that, exactly what you're talking about. DM me after the because I think I'm going to end up having to leave here pretty shortly. DM me and I'll get back to you with a YouTube page from one, like Mike Maloney, I think is the guy's name. I don't remember. But he has something called like Mike Maloney's Gold and Silver or something like that. Basically, it goes on to he has like a documentary length video over the development of Bitcoin, how that's basically had a bunch of libertarians and ANCAPs super excited, and then the next stage was the stage of hash graph, which has everybody, which for some reason not everybody knows about. Like I'm pretty much clueless when it comes to crypto overall. I still hold major reserves on it, but that's mainly from the point of view of a prepper, in which when the electricity goes down, if the electricity goes down, we're we can't trade.
True. That's another disadvantage of that.
Exactly. But in terms of, so I'd prefer to have substantial, actual commodity over digital currency. That, and eventually somebody will find a way to hack into it. So I know everybody thinks it's unbreakable, but eventually somebody will find a way, and then they can take control of the whole system. Kind of like how the Titanic was unsinkable.
I am so confused.
So,
unsinkable ships.
Religious Society says Mike Maloney is a good channel for anyone to watch who's concerned about the collapse of the dollar.
Definitely something for to put in the descriptions there.
So oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, actually, I was just getting ready to say my goodbyes. Yeah, I gotta go. So, Siegfried!
All right, bye now. Thanks for stopping.
See ya. I'll send over the link, and then in the main chat for you guys to add into descriptions and whatnot. See ya.
All right, great.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, excuse me.
And like normally when I call something commie, that's an insult. But leave it to the commies to find something that's actually beneficial when there's already a centralized, massive, involuntary power structure in place. And I can point to another example of this. There's a commie dude that invented a home science kit that allows people to brew their own antibiotics and stuff out of their house. There's something about the commie mind that makes them, they're anti-corporation in general, anti-hierarchy. And so they look for solutions to subvert the current state of corporations. One of those is intellectual property. And so when they look at the drug industry, which is mired in IP, you can't brew your own, you can't compete with major pharmaceutical to, sell Advil or, acetaminophen or antibiotics or whatever, because they'll pound you to death with IP law. And so the commies are like, well, fuck those corporations. I'm going to decentralize the technology and let everybody brew their own stuff at home. And they go out and they make these kits. You can Google this. It's a commie that did it. In this current state of affairs, it's good. We need that kind of thing. We need to find ways to subvert the ways corporations have captured the government and used it to, nefarious ends. But once the state's gone, that won't even be a problem anymore. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, the thing about MasterCard is that with all the exposure of the centralized institution is their corruption and lobbying, I seriously doubt there'll be that big a competition for the cryptocurrencies. So in which case, smaller firms are going to step up.
Darth Revan's in the call
Yeah, he's
right
here.
now.
Yay. But he's muted.
Is there anybody familiar with Holochain?
No.
No.
I mean that's another new
I
and
probably
possibly cool advancement in blockchain tech. That might solve some of the issues with that that we currently have with just terrible throughput on normal blockchain coins. But it still will not and cannot compete with a centralized technology for just efficiency, for decentralization of trust, and for hiding from the government. Yeah, sure, we have to do that stuff. Anyway, I beat this fucking horse to death. I'm gonna shut up now.
Yeah, it's not so much
I'll
about.
look into it more later. Sorry, go ahead.
Hey, Quite, let me finish. It's
Sorry.
not so much about just getting rid of it. It's also ensuring that it will never come back again.
Yeah, exactly.
That's part of our aim.
Yep.
I'll be right back.
All right.
Continue talking amongst yourselves.
Although one thing let's see, I think one thing that I do have high hopes for is, right, who just left? Never mind. One thing I do have high hopes for is because the internet is providing more and more education, so hopefully more people will realize how horrible public schools are, because I think that's the first thing we need to get rid of is the public schools, because that brainwashes kids into thinking the state is necessary when it's not.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably why we're having trouble reaching out to the statists, because they've been brainwashed and my narrative, my dogma, my government.
Although, what do you think of the whole decentralization of information thing, like with FNet and stuff? Because
I think it might work, but I don't know if there'd be special hardware required or not.
Let's see, because I would have to look into it more. I think they said you need a mesh box or something like that. Like, because I think like encrypting and everything like that, that's like a good way to go, because it's like it's probably, like I said, decentralized, if not Bitcoin, decentralization of information is going to be like the most important thing, because then we can actually give people actual education. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and there's no way the state would be able to recover from that, especially now that information travels even faster than when the printing press was developed.
Yep. Because, like they'll I can't talk. Because, like I said, we just need to encrypt it, because that's like that would take thousands of years for even an advanced computer to decode.
But I am interested in seeing how quantum computing will affect decentralization.
I don't know what that is.
Well, instead of using classical ones and zeros, it uses the state of an atom or subatomic particle to record information.
Wow. That sounds amazing.
I do know that it's a very strange. It'd be very strange for encryption.
The future.
The future.
Does anyone have anything else to add to how the big ones will have lost practically all their trust by the time algorithm with cryptocurrency removes the state?
Wait, sorry, what? Okay, never mind. I'm just...
While I was waiting for a response from Patch, before I started to wait for a response from Patrick, in which everyone else took over, I said that with MasterCard and all the other big financial institutions losing tremendous amounts of trust with how they're lobbying and all the other corruption is being exposed, they're not going to recover from that, which means that smaller firms are going to step up, and that will provide a lot of competition. Plus, people are not just going to give up the benefits of having no central point of attack. Once they get used to that, heck, they can have. I mean, All it takes is one hacker to attack a central point, and it's game over.
Oh,
With decentralization, that's not possible.
yes.
Game over, man. Game over.
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend who, I think he works in IT, but I'm not sure, and he has often pointed out that the extreme amount of centralization has opened up many different vulnerabilities. And look at the aliens from Independence Day. Look how much centralization they had.
Yeah, and Revan, I believe you talked to Mel about how it's mathematically impossible for hackers to try to successfully attack cryptocurrency regarding cryptography, that whole chicken McNugget thing.
Chicken McNugget.
Pretty much. Well, whatever. Again, you'd have to break it down to its original form usually if you're going to try to attack a blockchain.
Yeah, isn't that like that would be extremely difficult? That sounds like, and not to mention the only way they would know like your transactions and everything is if somebody, if you actually gave them the number or whatever, and the exact number of date of the transaction and everything.
And even then, it's not going to give them much.
Yep.
Yeah, not only that. I mean, some people see all the forks as a bad thing. On the contrary, that just creates more competition, and if one cryptocurrency goes down, there are plenty of others to go to that will do the job.
Yeah. Also, can I interject? Because you're saying like, Patrick was saying, like how crypto is inefficient. But thing is, like, because there's like, he said credit cards like MasterCard. Couldn't it be possible like we could, and like if it's not like because you said like the internet, if the power's out, then you can't trade. But the thing is, I'm thinking, couldn't you possibly make a card that links to your Bitcoin that you could use whether or not the power's on or not?
There's already a credit card linked to Bitcoin, BitPay.
Really?
Although you'll still need electricity for it.
Oh yeah, it's true. Well,
and plus, it's a centralized.
You need
plus, that's a centralized. Plus, as a centralized firm, so that's probably not the best option.
Oofies.
Did we get to read the message that Melon left us in the Hangout group chat?
No.
Although one thing I was thinking, because Bitcoin would have, crypto would have more value than fiat because it has scarcity because there's like a cap limit on it, which fiat does not have.
Yeah, and right now, not only that, but also because you can't, because there's only so many of each cryptocurrency, you can't just tamper with it, which means that there's not going to be all that much inflation, if any.
Yeah, exactly. Although, like, again, we'd have to figure out how to trade without the power on, unless the only way I'm thinking we would still trade in gold and silver, of course, because, haven't we for eons or whatever? Or not eons, millennia.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how subjective theory of value would work with cryptocurrencies, because, people were like, but my intrinsic value! Or, what do you... Yeah, it's the decision of the consumer, the end user, that it has value.
Because the thing is, it's kind of like this weird situation. It's like value is subjective, but at the same time, there are certain criteria for what makes something valuable.
Yeah, supply and demand, pretty much, which applies to every resource.
Yeah, kind of like with how a story is written. Like, I'm a writer, so I could probably, because that would be my job, is to write a good story on convincing people why the state is a bad idea. But anyways, there's certain things you don't have people I'll probably always prefer Star Wars over Star Trek, but there's certain criteria for a story to be able to be easy to follow and have interesting characters. So even though taste is subjective, but like good writing is objective to a certain extent.
Yeah. Sorry. So can we please stop acting as though just because something has subjectivity that there's nothing about out? So can we please cut? All right. What am I even gonna say? So can we please cut it out with a whole just because something has some subjectivity that there's nothing to derive from it? I mean, you'd be amazed how often I get that remark when it comes to biblical hermeneutics. Like, oh, that's not what this guy said. well, what about the linguistics? What about the grammar? What about the geography, the culture, all that? Am I the only one that's taking it into consideration?
Well, because Karl Marx said so. That's what I hear a lot.
Daniel Larimer wrote an article where he tried to predict how the future could work in a free society using cryptocurrency, and he came at it from a spin of labor theory of value.
Yeah.
And
well, honestly, the thing. Sorry.
I rebutted the article. Let me. I'll post a link. I'll post links to it. Where do you want me to do that? On YouTube?
You could do it in the Hangouts group or on a call link. Leave the link in the call or something like that.
All right. Let me know if you get that.
We got it.
Yeah, I see it.
That's the video, and here is the Steemit article.
Okay.
I called it. I called it communism with extra blockchain steps, but he didn't sell it like that.
Well, honestly, communism wouldn't be so dangerous if the state didn't get involved all the time.
He calls it a grand unified political theory: anarchy, libertarianism, capitalism, and socialism. There you go. There's the link to his article.
All right.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
All right, let's quick go to what Mellum left in the Hangouts group chat. It's a Mike Maloney video from Bitcoin to Hashgraph documentary, Hidden Secrets of Money, episode 8. It's the video regarding Bitcoin and Hashgraph. Mellum says he highly recommends looking into the whole series, especially for non-ANCAPs.
Yeah. Also regarding nobody owning crypto, well, so long as you either keep the private key private, or if you do obtain a private key, you sweep that address, you can still technically own your piece of it. You would just need to be extra cautious.
Yeah, I guess.
That's the main thing.
I would say that keeping something private doesn't create a new form of private property that didn't previously exist. Like if I built a really efficient farm, you know, I had everything arranged in a super efficient way, had all the technology figured out, and then I pitched a giant warehouse tent over it so nobody could see it. That would not convert the pattern of my farm that was previously not a valid form of property that anybody could look at and copy into a private property that I could initiate force to defend. Well, that would just be keeping the pattern private.
Well, the thing is, people mine the crypto, and they also part with some resources in exchange for that crypto, which still means that you're still going to own whatever amount you traded or mined for, or so there's that.
Well, writing a song takes a lot of effort, and that doesn't make the pattern of the music a valid form of property.
What was that?
I said that, you know, writing a song, creating music takes a lot of effort. That's kind of like mining, but it doesn't mean that the finished pattern of the music is a valid form of property.
We weren't talking about intellectual property.
Oh, yeah. I'm saying that that's what Bitcoin is, effectively. It's a pattern that you store on media. The media is your property. The pattern is not.
I don't know if that's really a false equivalence or not. I don't know.
I'm happy to have the discussion. I thought that's what we were here for. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm just confused. Like, this is the first time I've ever heard anyone like. I mean, you're not playing devil's advocate, I'm assuming, right?
No, I mean,
Okay,
again, this is why I think communists love this this whole concept.
All right, yeah, I'm just confused because it's the first time I've heard anyone like, besides mainstream media, be like this. But it's like, not that I'm saying like, oh, you don't agree with us, agree. It's just like I'm a little bit confused now.
Yeah, so like a private key to a Bitcoin wallet on my hard drive is no different than a song, is no different than a photo, is no different than a movie. They're all patterns stored on media. The pattern is not the property, the media is. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, but at the same time, it's like if someone were to pay you for your time that you made to write that song, like you own your labor, right?
No, labor is not a valid form of property. That's labor theory of value.
Actually, no. I'm sorry, never mind.
Oh, sorry for interrupting then.
No, I'm just confused. Ugh.
It's sticky, isn't it? Because we're really used to thinking about Bitcoin differently, but I'm just trying to push back a little bit.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Never heard it explained in that way before.
Yeah, the thing is, even when it's a bunch of code. I mean, for example, this this icon. I still own the icon, even though there's a whole bunch of code that goes into displaying it. But at the end of the day, cryptocurrency is still a commodity, and commodity is property.
I think that's a false equivalency. All things that you would consider a commodity might not be property.
Question: what's the difference between a false equivalence and a weak analogy? I don't know. I was trying to figure out if there were any other terms for false equivalence, but something that just came into my mind was the weak analogy, where you make a comparison between two things, but in reality, they're not similar at all.
Yeah, commodities are resources. You can own resources.
Yes.
Around that.
Song could be technically a resource to a certain extent. I mean, there's intellectual property, but then at the same time, if someone wants to use the song, that's also a resource, because if they need it for a video, that's a resource. Am I wrong?
Yeah, in philosophy, you have to be annoyingly precise with language, and all we seem to be doing is kind of substituting words to try and find one that feels right. But you know, property is anything that is scarce and rivalrousness, and only things that are scarce and rivalrousness. And patterns on a hard drive are neither scarce nor rivalrous.
On the surface, you'd be correct. But then the cryptocurrencies are programmed in a way that there's only going to be a set amount, period.
Yeah, because like there's like programs that can randomly generate certain like landscapes, like for a video game or something. So it's like never gonna repeat that same pattern again. Just like with genetics no, that's bad. Never mind, it's a bad analogy. But yeah, like I said, there's like certain programs that randomly generate certain
procedurally generated maps. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, and it will never create that map ever again. So it's like, I forgot what's going with this.
I'll try it from a different angle. So let's say you have a private key to your Bitcoin wallet on your hard drive, and I access your hard drive and copy those zeros and ones, copy the pattern of those zeros and ones to my hard drive. I have stolen nothing from you. You still possess your zeros and ones exactly as you had them. This is the same argument for music and movies and all other intellectual property in the world. And then even if I access that private wallet that I have on my hard drive and I quote unquote spend those Bitcoins or transfer that quote unquote not property to someone else, you still have your zeros and ones unchanged that belong to, well, they don't belong to you, but you still have the hard drive with everything intact. I have taken nothing from you. The only thing that has moved is the subjective value of that pattern of zeros and ones. Subjective value. That is the only thing that has moved, is what someone else is willing to pay you for those zeros and ones. You have no right to someone else paying you for something.
Well, Yeah, but they can pay you if they want to, though, right?
Yes.
Just out of speculation.
Yep. I mean, anybody can pay anybody for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just something to think about.
Yeah, I know. This is just something I have to think about because
I'm so happy that I'm able to, at least challenge you guys. This is fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Finally
really interesting.
Yes, finally something challenging. Thank you.
Yeah, glad I invited you.
But yeah, the whole IP thing with the software and files, yeah, that's something that's always been kind of tricky because it's just a arbitrary string of ones and zeros that's being interpreted. How is that property?
Yeah, in a video on my channel, I did one where I compared intellectual property to the pattern of a farm. I kind of talked about that earlier. All IP is a pattern, and patterns are not a valid form of property. It's the actual physical objects that they're recorded on, be that a design for a farm, musical notes to a song, or a Bitcoin private key.
Help us out here, Redden.
I have nothing to say that's already been said, dude. And whatever, I'm just listening because it's more interesting to listen than say anything right now.
You guys are gonna wait until I'm gone and be like, "Fuck that guy! Holy shit!"
Yes, of course. All I want to do is just fire. Of course.
What's exciting because it raises interesting questions.
It does.
So a guy in the comments says, so basically it's justifiable to steal because values are subjective. It's not the value of the stolen property that makes it a crime. It's the actual property being removed from the possession of the owner that makes it a crime.
Yeah.
It could be something valued at 0 by anybody. It could be like a bucket of poop. I don't even know what would have an absolute 0 value. But if somebody removed something that belonged to me without my permission, even if it had no subjective value, it would still be theft.
Well, poop can be used for like.
I know. I can't think of something that's valueless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everything has some sort of value to somebody. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I place a value on dirt because I can use it for growing plants, and I can, and if I'm building a structure underground, I could use it as insulation and shielding.
Oh, I've got it. Okay, a book written by a communist. There, 0 value. Done.
Well, I don't know. Karl Marx, the liposuction companies, the weight loss industry hates him because of his effective dieting guide.
Yeah, because you could still burn the book for warmth, so not even that has 0 value. Damn it.
Yeah, you see, dude.
Damn, yeah, it's effective dieting guide. It's good for burning warmth. Yep, yeah.
I'm surprised.
I can use it to draw on too if I don't have any paper.
No, I'm surprised liposuction and go ahead.
You can also make forts out of it.
Books, yeah.
You can use it as a weight loss regimen. Results guaranteed.
You can make the pages. You can use the pages to make spitballs.
Yeah, Eyeball just commented. Well, I think it might be a bit of a bad analogy. No offense. His challenge he presents is valid, but to be sound, it would be more that the bits, the ones and zeros, cannot be property.
Yeah, because ones and zeros are universal, and they can be arranged anywhere spontaneously by anyone.
And the bits?
Well, a bit is a concept. It just means a magnetic alignment or a configuration of a transistor on a medium, a physical object that is property.
Or in the case of quantum computing and quantum mechanics, a certain state of an atom or a subatomic particle.
Yeah, the spin of an atomic particle, or super state of which.
Yeah.
That's this all day long. Yeah.
Quantum mechanics sure is a doozy.
Indeed.
Analog TV without a converter box. That's pretty valueless, but you can still burn it. You can still burn it for warmth.
True.
Or you can sell that. You can scrap it and sell the components.
Mm-hmm.
Also true.
I wish Issa were on here.
Yeah.
Well, Esso's, I guess he's busy with other stuff right now.
Yep.
And I for Capitalism says the same thing that makes crypto useful as a store of exchange is what makes it property. The concept of the Bitcoin is different from the ones and zeros. If it wasn't, it wouldn't have the worth we place upon it. I'm willing to retract if I'm wrong, though. I would just say again that value is subjective. You can choose to place value on anything you want. That doesn't make it property. Like my labor as a CTO of a company, of an entrepreneur startup company, people place value on that. That doesn't mean my labor is property that gets transferred.
Yeah.
I mean, let me know if that's clear. If not, I can try and do a better job. Sorry if
that
I'm not
makes
being
sense.
clear.
That makes sense. Because the more people who want your labor, the more valuable it would be. Like, I mean, I'm not okay. Never mind. That's a terrible. Never mind.
No, supply and demand. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, his labor becomes more valuable because people have a greater need for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a
There's
greater
demand
want.
for it. Yeah, it's not because, like I'm saying, I'm not like going commie here and saying like, pay me for my value. But it's like, well, then go out and make your own business, and if people value your labor, they will, you will have a successful business.
True that.
Because that's why, because I felt like I had something because that's why I'm self-employed. I feel I have something valuable that people want, which would be my artwork. So,
How's it going, one of those guys? I've seen you around my streams before. Glad you're here.
Cool. Yeah, and he just subscribed to my channel, so thank you. Verbal armament.
Hold on, guys. Be right back.
Another new person in here. Hello, Verbal Armaments. Welcome.
I do 3D modeling, and I'm not so sure, but there's probably someone out there who wants it, even though I'm not incredibly skilled.
Interesting. Oh, Attack Helicopter Cat knows guy. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Attack Helicopter help us out on this discussion.
Yes.
Is Attack Helicopter Cat the same as everybody? Nobody uses their real names, so I never know who I'm talking to. Is that the same? Are you Silly Rabbit?
Yes.
Okay. Jesus, so confused. My name's Patrick Smith in real life. That's how you know.
No, we know.
I'm giving y'all shit.
Marianne is my first real name. So
yeah, I'm just giving y'all shit. I understand you want to be anonymous. The ship has already sailed for me, I guess.
Yeah, it's fine.
Where are you guys located? Or if you can say, I guess.
Well, yes, this is the reason why I want to be anonymous is because I'm afraid of the Jews coming at my house and playing jujitsu, practicing jujitsu.
Oy vey.
They're going to practice jujitsu in front of my house.
Revan, do you want to say what region you're from?
I'm from Snow Mexican land.
AKA Canada.
What did I miss?
Never heard it called Snow Mexican before. I will never forget that now.
Yes, I am an autistic Snow Mexican.
Yeah, Revan, help us out here. Come on.
Dude, I'm more interested in listening to the conversation, if I'm honest.
Wait, what
I
did
have
miss
my own
while you were
opinion
gone?
on the matter. I have my own. I will be honest. I have my own opinion on the matter. I have something in my head, but honestly, I just want to hear it out. Honestly,
I
wanna
mean,
listen to you.
I can keep throwing ideas out there to talk about unless you guys have something.
Wait, what did I miss while I was gone?
I'm just
Snow Mexicans.
No, I was here for that.
And jujitsu. Oh yeah, you laughed at
Yes,
that.
I heard that.
We were pretty much having a back and forth about cryptocurrency.
Yeah, again, still alright. Yeah, this is a tricky one, isn't it?
Oh, Verbal Armament says to you, Revan, where in Snow Mexican land are you? And he says he's also from Snow Mexican land.
What's up, Verbal Armament?
I'm not telling. I gotta at least keep. I'm okay here. I guess I could tell my province. All right. I guess Ontario. I guess.
No said, but aren't those ones and zeros there to represent future physical objects which you are capable of buying? Isn't spending someone else's bitcoins also theft then? Because it's equivalent to stealing other shit. That's what he said.
Oh gosh, I hope a bunch of Jews don't come to my house now and start practicing jujitsu. Damn it.
Okay, is anyone going to take what No said on?
I don't know. That's kind of actually an interesting question.
Your opinion of what something represents in the future might give it subjective value for you, but that's not property.
I will admit it is kind of confusing to determine what the criteria of property.
Yeah.
But if it's one thing I was positive from the get-go was that there is no such thing as intellectual property because it could spontaneously arise somewhere else, independently of the original. Yeah.
Yeah, that brings up another point. With cryptocurrencies, you can't just duplicate them.
Yeah.
What is there is going to stay that amount.
Yeah, because you can't counterfeit it. That's the
It's not going to duplicate. It's not going to copy. It's just going to transfer from one place to the next.
If I can, again, philosophy is about being annoyingly precise, so I apologize in advance. Language, the devil is in the language. So when you say it's going to transfer from one place to the next, that is not actually what happens. The value placed upon a pattern of zeros and ones is transferred. The subjective value is transferred. The zeros and ones don't move.
One of
Well,
them.
yeah, there's only going to be a set amount of it out there.
Hmm.
It's not going to replicate. It's not going to copy.
You can't say there's a set amount of value out there because the value goes up and down all the time. It was $20,000 about a year ago.
I'm not talking about the value. I'm talking about the commodity itself.
Yeah. Actually, I'm just gonna mute myself right now. Sorry.
Well, I'm not sure. I guess I'd have to ask you what you mean by. You're going to have to define commodity because we can't keep changing the word we're using and get anywhere really.
You were the one that kept talking about the value of it. We were talking about the thing itself.
I'm saying it's not a valid form of property. That's what I'm saying.
We're saying commodity. We mean the same thing as we do anyone else when they say, hey, commodity. We're not changing the definition. We're applying it to the cryptocurrency.
Well, calling something a commodity doesn't say if it's a valid form of property or not, right? But that's what we're debating.
What about
so Google says a commodity is a raw material or primary agricultural product that can be bought and sold, such as copper or coffee. A useful or valuable thing such as water or time. But I would say that Google's definition includes time as property, and time is not a valid form of property. So,
Well, it's a resource, isn't it?
yes, but not all resources are valid forms of property.
I know, but I'm just saying it's a resource.
As an anarcho-capitalist, we have to have a freaking adamantium strong definition of the terms and of the concepts that we talk about. And property is the most fundamental one that we have to have figured out.
Yep, consistency. It's important with us.
Especially since if we don't, then statists and communists are going to pick every single cherry that they could find.
Yep.
This is why I want you in this, Brevin. A little help here.
Again, I'm more interested in listening.
If only we had ESO on here, he'd be able to help us out.
Yeah, I'm not a good debater, by the way.
I missed a shout out from Verbal Armament. Hey man, how's it going? Have I seen you somewhere else? I don't recognize the name. And then one of those guys says, Patrick, thoughts on Brett Sanders' new political affiliations? I can talk about that if y'all want.
Sure.
Yeah, let's.
Does anybody know who Brett Sanders is? First of all,
not sure.
He's a local guy from Texas that used to be a big YouTube guy, kind of an activist. He used to do a lot of cop watching and a lot of anti-feminist stuff. And he basically followed Molyneux off the cliff along with along with Can't Fight Well, and basically fascist at this point. I don't really have any thoughts on it beyond that. Just it's another victim of Molyneux. I mean, so many people trusted Molyneux because he's such an intelligent guy, and he used to make such amazing arguments that you could sort of over time just sort of let your intellectual walls down and just trust what he's saying without too much critical thinking. Unfortunately, that turned out to take a lot of people into a very bad place, just like Can't Fight Well. Chris Cantwell is who I'm saying, and we call him Chris. We call him Can't Fight Well in Texas, and Brett Sanders kind of went the same way. He followed a really smart guy down a road of very bad arguments.
Yeah, well, some people are not very intelligent, but that can make really good arguments. But some people are very what is it called? Hang on, I think I've just fucked this up right initially. Fuck. Okay, well, no. I don't think I did. Hold on, wait. No, some people can be very intelligent but make shitty arguments, but then some people can be very unintelligent and make very good arguments.
Yep.
I learned that the hard way.
No.
And when I can stomach it, I'll still occasionally try a Molyneux video, and occasionally he's still making some good arguments. It's just they're peppered in with some really bad ones.
Oh, great. Did you see his review for Angry Birds? That was retarded.
No, I didn't.
Oh my god, you need to see
the game. He reviewed Angry Birds the game.
No. Don't you remember?
Oh, that meme.
No, it was a movie at one point. Yeah. Remember?
Recently, right?
Yeah, they made it into a movie, and then he reviewed the movie, and basically, it had his own interpretation with it, and it was retarded.
What was it?
It would be hard to explain, but basically, he thinks it's about immigration and shit.
Oh,
it's hard for me to explain. You'd have to see it.
Right on.
And also, his Beauty and the Beast one. That one was retarded too.
Damn Cantwell roast, we've reached peak anarchy. Yep.
Yay! Yay!
Peak anarchism, boys. Peak anarchy, boys. Sieg Heil.
Sieg Heil.
I don't remember talking with you, Verbal Armament. I don't remember when.
No said cryptocurrency is a representation of physical currency. It's only encrypted because we don't want it to be regulated.
Mm.
So if you're holding a $1 bill in front of your face, or whatever funky thing you call them in Canada, it's still dollars there, actually, right? See, I'm dumb. Right? It's a Canadian dollar, right?
We have the Canadian dollar's a coin, but all right.
Oh, okay. So you're holding one of whatever that is in front of your face. Funny money. And see, this is my U.S. upbringing coming out.
Our money is people of color. I guess I don't know.
What?
So when you're holding one in your hand and looking at it, what is the currency in that? What is the property in that? Is it the subjective value that other people give that thing? Is it the actual physical object? I would say it's the only thing that is property is a physical, tangible, scarce object. And if you hand that to a bank and they increase a number in their computer by 1, that does not make the numbers in their computer property. It just means that you have a value. Well, it means that people would consider that you have value, but I think the property has been given away.
Which again, you cannot just duplicate a that amount of cryptocurrency. Which again, when you mine a cryptocurrency, you cannot duplicate it. So there's still scarcity.
Let's see. An eye for capitalism says, correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, but individual time can be considered property right. After all, we can sell it, and if taken by force or coercion, it is considered slavery and an immoral act.
Yeah.
Time is not a valid form of property. Like when someone hires you, they are not buying your time. This is like messy language, and it also is dangerous language because it alludes to a labor theory of value, labor having an innate value, or labor being a tangible, a piece of property that can be traded. When somebody hires you to do something, they're simply contracting with you, and they're saying, I'll give you money, which you value, for you using your property and your scarce resources to an end that I wish you to. Usually that's you using your body property in a way I want you to use it. That's all it is. You're not buying time. You're trading something that they value in exchange for them using their resources how you want them to.
No matter where you go, poof, there you are.
Argo the Gin just said, cryptocurrency has natural scarcity like gold and not like fiat dollars. That's what I've been saying this whole time.
Define the scarcity of a Bitcoin for me, please.
I'm not sure if this defines it or not, but there's only a certain amount of Bitcoins you can print at a certain amount of time or whatever, or only a certain amount of Bitcoins that can be made for how many people are using it.
And once that limit is reached, it is reached. There's no changing it. That's the point I've been making again and again and again.
All right,
yeah, but that's just code running arbitrary rules that calls a certain pattern of zeros and ones a Bitcoin.
What about its utility, though?
And there's nothing to say that I can't take my own zeros and ones and arrange them in the exact same way as one that popped out of the algorithm. Now we both have access to the same private wallet.
What about its utility, though?
Oh, was that to me?
Anyone, really.
I would just say utility is not a valid form of property either. It's just something
Well, I'm not
that is
saying it's
subjectively valued.
Saying whether
okay.
it's value or not. Okay, wait. I think my problem is I'm totally confused about what we're talking about. Okay, so you're arguing whether I kind of got like what you're saying is that you're arguing Bitcoin is not property. Okay, so
I'm not saying it doesn't have value. So let me argue the other side here. When I say that something doesn't have property, I'm not saying it doesn't have value.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just saying it's intellectual property. It's not a valid form of property. Like, it's not to say I can't have a secret in my head or written down on a piece of paper in my pocket that somebody wouldn't pay a great deal of money for. That there's value there, but that doesn't make the pattern on the paper property. Even if it's the only paper like it in existence.
Oops.
So the scarcity doesn't make it property. The utility doesn't make it property. And it can still have value.
Yeah, just like time
in regards to just duplicating. In regards to just duplicating the cryptocurrency, how would you even go about it the way it's designed?
I plug a thumb drive into your computer and I copy the file over.
How would you
How
copy
would
the
you go
file?
about copying it?
How would you? Yeah. How would you copy that? That's the thing we're very confused about. It's like
I just need the zeros and ones for the private key for your wallet. That's how Bitcoin gets quote unquote stolen. Somebody gets a copy of the zeros and ones that make up your private key.
The private key is not the same thing as the currency. It's just a way to store it.
yeah.
It's just a way to store it.
Yeah, because don't you need it? Because
We're using sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
You need a PIN number and shit like that, like passwords and PIN numbers still to like protect your wallet. It's not just you can't just copy it down. You need the PIN number at the same time, don't you?
Yeah, we're using the same language as like actual. Well, I don't want to say actual money because that's invalid. See, this is the annoying precision in philosophy language. So we're using the language of normal currency, traditional currency, let's say, to talk about this new thing that is in many ways nothing like traditional currency. So we're saying transfer. We're saying, send it to somebody. None of that actually happens. Like when you quote unquote send somebody Bitcoin, the only thing that happens is, an entry gets added to the ledger that's on everybody's computer. And so the only thing that actually changes is that the people's subjective opinion of value moves from your wallet's zeros and ones to somebody else's wallet's zeros and ones. That's the only thing that's what transfers, is people's idea of what is valuable. Whose hard drive is valuable, let's say.
I feel like we're just going in circles at this point, really.
Yeah, we can move on. I'm sorry. I hope I'm not perpetuating it.
Yeah, one of those guys said one of those guys said, with absconding with the wallet key, you're taking the means to access what is valued by others, hence unjust enrichment.
So this unjust enrichment thing is a new term that I guess would have to be defined to know what we're talking about there. Absconding with the wallet. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's have him specify. Okay, Note just said, let's say you have a physical $1 note in your hand. If somebody took it from you, and in its place put a similar note with a big 0 instead of a 1, would it still have value, even though it's physical?
The language is kind of messy there. So if somebody takes a piece of paper that most people would value at $1 out of your hand, then they're apparently they have stolen your property, and as restitution would owe you, if not that physical object back, they would owe you something of equal market value. Generally, is probably how most free societies would look at it. What they leave you doesn't erase the original crime.
Until it's at state, bro.
Yeah,
right.
We
left you a road, so shut up.
Okay. One of those guys just said, unjust enrichment equals theft in a loose sense.
I don't know what theft in a loose sense is, man. You're gonna have to define that. Like, theft is the removing property from somebody
without their permission, forceful removal without someone's permission.
Yeah,
that's the thing. They're taking that. If they're taking that cryptocurrency without you knowing, they're taking it without your permission.
They're not taking it if you still have your property. So, like, the only crime that, like, if I walked up to your computer and stuck a thumb drive in it and copied your wallet, the only crime there would be me trespassing and me using your property without your consent. Your actual, like, computer property. Now, if the effect of that, let's say, trespass was that, maybe I got $100 in Bitcoin or $1,000 in Bitcoin or whatever, when, you went through, let's say, a free market arbitration or, free, you called your insurance, your DRO or your insurance company in free society and said, hey, this guy broke into my house, accessed my computer, and as a result of his actions, I have, lost X amount of value in the market. I don't see why you couldn't be awarded damages equal to the value that was lost because of their actions. Doesn't mean that they could break into your house and, like, smash your computer, and you'd be making the same case. You know, he broke into my house. He didn't technically steal anything, but you know, he's destroyed X amount of value of. Oh no, that's a bad argument because the computer's actually property.
Yeah.
He could break into my house and take a picture of me naked and then go out into the world and spread that picture around. No, that's a bad argument too, because you don't have a right to reputation. There's very little analogs in this discussion.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most confusing arguments I've ever been a part of, because it's like there's just too many gray areas with this.
I appreciate that an eye for capitalism. That is a very rare trait in any human. Is the ability the ability to change one's mind. That's probably the most rare thing I've ever seen. I was just reading the comments.
Yeah, to have a mind. Well, to change your mind first, you have to have one.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Oh.
Okay, no.
Yeah. Since
very bad.
since nobody's really gonna go anywhere with this, let's just move on.
Yeah, because I feel like there's too many gray areas with this argument. Like, that's the issue.
And I also think there's multiple misunderstandings I've noticed and all that stuff, and multiple dead ends where I think you guys have hit.
Yeah, we're gonna have to figure out like.
What else you want to? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we should all like probably do more research on this, because like I don't know much about Bitcoin right now, anyway, or crypto much, anyways. So like this is definitely something I'd have to look into more.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
What else you guys want to talk about?
The Jews and how they caused 9/11. There you go.
Your mom.
Oh, Ancap I asks Patrick, what is your opinion on some of the philosophical positions of the alt-right?
What philosophical position do you want my opinion on?
Yes, specify, please.
What just happened in my brain? Is anytime
Heretic wants in? Okay.
Yeah, I think it might be a bit late though, since we moved on from the cryptocurrency discussion.
Yeah, I think you,
maybe he could continue it, maybe later, but not right now.
Yeah, not right now.
Yeah, not right now. But if he still wants to come, he can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll DM the link to him.
It's been a while since Heretic was on any of my streams, so it'd be good to have him back again.
Yeah.
Right now, I just feel like it bounces.
He's fun to talk to.
Yeah.
So for the alt-right thing, that's a collective label. There's a lot of individuals with a lot of different ideas on what that means. So the extent that I can comment on it is pretty limited. It would just be based on the stereotypes in my head about what alt-right means. Same thing if somebody asked me about what are my opinions on the philosophical positions of feminism. Like there's a lot of different types of feminism. Most of them are bad, but not all of them. So like, give me a position and I can tell you what I think about it, I guess.
Ancapi continues. I know it's a bit loaded, lol. The thing that fascinates me is how they sound like leftists when talking about capitalism. Oh yeah, I remember what Spencer, he was giving props to Marx in one of his tweets. This was from a while ago. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, Jesus.
Really? I'm not familiar with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I saw it. Someone took a screenshot and saved it.
You have a screenshot? Do you guys have a screenshot?
I don't have it on me. I should have saved it.
They only support free markets when it favors them, you guys.
Yeah.
Sounds like another eugenics thing, but whatever. It's not saying it is, it just sounds like it.
Hmm.
Oh boy.
Awkward silence.
Ancapi says, one of Spencer's famous lines is, a free society is just another place to go shopping.
Oh, please.
Okay.
Goes, why? I feel like I said something stupid.
No, you haven't said anything stupid. Don't worry.
Yeah, said something stupid with that quote. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, a free society is not just another place to go shopping. If it were, it would. What does it even try to say here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? Does not compute.
Does not compute. Error. Error.
Does anybody else remember like an early moment when the alt-right that label first came into existence? It didn't mean terrible fascists, racists.
No, I don't remember that at all.
There was.
I don't.
It lasted like a month, but it was. But in the beginning, it was just like these new Republicans that were like sort of less conservative party, and that was it. And then like all of a sudden, very quickly, it just went way far right.
Well, I don't know. I'm not a fan of the political spectrum because it's just whatever. But
Yeah, I agree with Filthy Heretic and you on this. I mean,
but yeah, I think I actually do remember that actually back in the day.
Yay, Filthy's here.
Oh hi.
Woohoo.
Hello.
Hello.
Or yet again, I heard it on FAUX News, so I can't really say much that though. But still, I really take
It's what Revan and I call Fox News. We spell it FAUX.
Yep. I'm moving my laptop.
I just call it gay.
Yeah, why don't I just call it gay news or faggot?
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's what normies consider to be alternative media.
Not normies. It's I don't know. And I don't know NPC news. I don't know, but that's pretty much everything.
What's the difference between a normie and NPC, though?
Barely.
Oh, I know. Normies don't even say Orange Man bad. They just say Orange Man.
Normies aren't programs, but they're still just as retarded. That makes sense.
I guess.
Yeah. I've just quoted to point out how ridiculous Spencer is. Oh, a free society is just another place to go shopping. Like, what does that even mean?
A what is a place? Just a place to go shopping?
A free society. What does Spencer even say there?
Spencer is trying to make a criticism against consumerism and arguing that a free society is just going to be another place that's going to perpetuate this quote-unquote degenerate consumerist culture that he does not take a fancy to. But in fact, which in fact only signals his lack of imagination rather than his understanding of how a free market might work.
Kami detected. Wee woo, wee woo.
Well, there's a fascist in SO's server right now, and one thing I just pointed out is that the difference between the communists and the fascists is a difference between the Crips and the Bloods. They're so freaking similar in their ideas, in their tactics, in their beliefs, and everything that matters, that the only real difference is what color shirts they wear, but they'll kill each other over these slight differences anyway.
Yeah, not only that, but this degeneracy that Spencer has a beef with has always been present even without a society. Even the medieval era. I mean, look at, and I might be stepping on some toes here, the rule of the harlots. You know what I'm talking about, right, Filthy?
I've never heard of that.
In regards to the papal office, where the nobles were the Italian families and some Spanish families were competing for control over the Holy See, and one lady actually succeeded in making the Pope the papal office her puppet, using just her body. I forget the exact name. It was during the medieval era.
My take on fashion, anyway, whatever. I want to go back to turn back to the original topic, but yeah. Well, my take on it is that again, it seems like two different paths to the exact same or similar destinations. At least is what I can take from it. Pretty much.
And Cap Eye said more beyond the Spencer quote here. He says, basically what I think he is trying to say is that our personalities shouldn't be centered around our place in the market. They often make this case by invoking the works of Edward Bernays and how people can be socially engineered to equate their identity with the products they buy.
I mean, what people used to do is they made their identity was based on what their occupation was. Now, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. I mean, those were the days of the classes and aristocracy, where you were judged not only by how you worked, but what your parents worked. So you were, for example, Benjamin Franklin, son of a candle maker, to give an historical example.
Yeah. I just gave a link in the group chat, Filthy. Not sure how reliable the website is, but it talks about the same thing that I mentioned. The rule of the harlots, the pornocracy of the 10th century.
This sounds hot. Does this say for work?
No, of course not.
Nice joke.
It's okay. I'm not at work.
Yeah, speaking of that, yeah, I mean, prostitution has been around forever. I mean, just read the Epic of Gilgamesh. One of the characters literally is a
prostitute.
Yeah, I mean, she was the one that seduced Enkidu.
Well, funny
That's
enough,
what the profession is. That's what the profession is.
Well, even then, like, there's even animals that would prostitute themselves and all that stuff. Funny enough, and then whatever.
That's not really part of the argument I'm making here, but
well, what I'm trying to say is that I'm not surprised that it lasted for a long time. I'm just backing you up, basically, because of how like even animals even do it. So I imagine, yeah, us humans have done it for a long frigging time.
Yeah,
due to being far more intelligent than most apes and whatever and all that, and they prostitute themselves.
They seem to have a thing. They seem to have a bug up their butts about leaving people alone, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't understand it either.
Yeah, I mean, even in as authoritarian a time as Mesopotamia, as the Mesopotamian kings, these kings, with all their power, actually endorsed prostitution. They employed it for their own political gain and whatnot. I mean, the Romans did this too, and imagine how much control they had.
The place was basically, I mean, it depends on the era. The late Roman Empire was what basically made the Plato's Republic look libertarian by comparison. But the early Roman Empire was basically Liberstad.
Yeah, and that's mainly because the emperors were too. And that's mainly because the different dynasties were too busy fighting amongst themselves. They had very little time to mess with the rest of the.
Well, what largely happened is that they had a powerhouse economy, but as their empire grew and they conquered more territory and needed larger armies to not only conquer more land, but to even hold on to it, they had to tax and spend more. The result is that like they taxed their economy into continuous recession after recession after recession. They debased their currency to the point where there was a black market on older denarii, which had higher percentages of precious metals in them. And it got to the point where, what was it? for landowners that selling yourself into slavery was a popular form of tax evasion.
Whoa.
That's how bad it was.
Yeah, I mean, this was going on during the Roman Republic too, with all the different provincial governors taxing the heck out of the local population, and the next governor calls them out on it, only to do the exact same thing.
And nothing really changes. I mean, we just got another nail. It's just another nail in the coffin of that civilization who couldn't quite figure out how to live without a state.
Right. I mean, just because you give something more power does not mean they're going to do the things you want. It just means that they have more that they can do to you.
Can I just say one thing about fascism?
Okay, go ahead.
They have some interesting insights in regards to several of the social problems that we're dealing with, and for the most part, they are correct. However, when it comes to their solutions for how to deal with these problems, there is such an absolute bankruptcy in terms of creativity and how to solve them that they just default to what the freaking elementary school teacher in social studies class told them. Get the government to do it. Yay!
Brainwashing.
You mean it's the typical example of a statist again. When you become a hammer or whatever, or when you're the hammer, everything seems like a nail.
Pretty much.
That's what it's become basically for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the more. I think it might actually be a pretty effective way to criticize fascism. Just say it's uncreative, that it's boring. It's the most used and abused form of solution that anyone has ever come up with. Oh, just get the government to solve it. We've never done that.
And it also fails every single time.
Gotta be a better way.
It also fails every single time because of how the government's never held accountable or barely.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, a lot of people, I think this might actually be a very effective marketing or a very effective way of presenting our message when criticizing fascism, to project it as boring. Well, because one, it is, and two, because people will often take interest in a particular ideology because it seems interesting, exotic, it seems new, fresh ideas, something that they might have otherwise not looked at, but because it's captured their attention, they're going to look more into it. So if you project it as boring, they'll probably just be like, "Oh, I don't want to be part of this boring ideology." I mean, who wants to be
big gay?
Who wants to work as a file clerk for the rest of their lives in a beige office underneath glowing fluorescent under glowing fluorescent lamps? If we project that onto fascism, I think that will be very effective.
We need to project that onto statism then.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Because that's all the state is, one giant farm, and then we're eventually taken to the slaughterhouse.
Mm-hmm.
One way or another, either that we're inconvenient to them, or either inconveniency or we just die normally.
Yeah, and this is why we want to trade around them. They can't tax what they can't. I mean, they can't tax what they can't obtain. And this is why I wanted you on your filthy when we were getting pummeled in that debate. But
you're telling me that Patrick here was saying that Bitcoin or that cryptocurrency doesn't have scarcity?
No, he's denied that it's even property.
I mean, I'm curious how that can be.
Yeah, and he said that that you can copy cryptocurrency just because it's code. I don't know. I mean, and all we got was a bunch of vague answers as to how this particular code can be duplicated.
Are we going there again? we're not coming back out for 45 minutes if we do.
Oh no.
I mean, it's just like all the things that do exist but aren't property. For example, air or intellectual property. The property, so to speak, that those particular goods have is that they're not scarce. They lack scarcity. There is, for all intents and purposes, an infinite amount of it. Now, obviously, there's certain technicalities, like there's a finite amount of air on the Earth, or that there is a finite amount of time that human beings could ever exist on the Earth, and therefore there's a finite amount of time of the number of ideas that they can come up with. But for all intents and purposes, for the purpose of this discussion, the supply cap of ideas, the supply cap of air is infinite. So to put a value on them is rather absurd because of how supply and demand works.
So what is a Bitcoin?
A Bitcoin is a piece of code from a mathematical equation.
I would say that a Bitcoin is a line in the global shared ledger. We gotta start with the basic definitions to have the conversation.
Sure.
So can we agree on that definition of a Bitcoin?
I need to know what the global shared ledger is.
The chain, the blockchain. The blockchain is a globally shared and agreed upon ledger. And the only thing a Bitcoin is a line in that ledger that says that a certain private key contains, let's say, and I'm using contains euphemistically, contains a Bitcoin.
And this is a thing that's unique to that particular blockchain because, as you know, like there are all sorts of technology that uses blockchain that aren't Bitcoin.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, blockchain is just a way to structure transactions.
So the Bitcoin blockchain is a ledger, just like the ledger in a bank.
Sure.
Right? That tracks subjective value.
Mm-hmm.
The price of Bitcoin obviously goes up and down. The price of US dollar goes up and down. I don't even know what the funny money in Canada's value is. I'm joking.
I can tell you what its value is.
It's just a joke. It's a joke. It's a hashtag American joke. The value is what gets transferred between people, but value is not a form of property. Neither is a pattern of zeros and ones. It's the value that gets transferred. That's all I'm saying. The pattern of zeros and ones on a hard drive is not property any more than the pattern of zeros and ones that make up an MP3 file or a picture or a movie or any other form of intellectual property.
Well, this is going back to intellectual property because, well, intellectual property can be copied a number of times. You might be able to commission artwork from someone on DeviantArt, but you can copy that. You can copy that millions of times and distribute it throughout the internet for free. You attempted to do this with Bitcoin. It's built into the blockchain that duplicate pieces of code simply don't work.
Well, that's not true.
You enter the ledger and you enter into the ledger and it's not going to go through.
No, I can access your hard drive and I can make a copy of your wallet and I can share that wallet all over the internet. Now everyone has copies of your wallet.
They don't have If they attempted to transact with the wallet, though, they'll find that only the first people who were able to get through are actually going to be able to transact. Because at that point, well, yeah, you can't really make duplicate code. I mean, you can, it just won't work because of how blockchain works.
If I copy the wallet all the way across the world, you still have your wallet, your pattern of zeros and ones in your possession on your hard drive. And if I or somebody else that I transferred your wallet to uses those zeros and ones that is on their property, their computer, in a way that moves value around on this ledger that you don't own, nothing has been stolen from you. There's no property in place here. There's no property in play here. Just a move of value.
I'm not sure I understand.
Give me something to go on. What don't you understand? And I'll try and talk to it specifically.
All right. So I'm just trying to figure out how it is my understanding of how the blockchain functions, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I very well might be. My understanding is that the structure is to prevent this exact kind of situation of, I forget what the term is, double charging.
Sounds like counterfeit, but whatever.
Well, I mean, it is counterfeit. That's exactly what it is. But the point is that each Bitcoin is a unique entity as part of a mathematical equation. And if that entity appears twice in the ledger, then the second iteration is invalid and will not be accepted.
That's accurate. Yep. You got it.
So therefore, each individual Bitcoin is a unique entity. You could duplicate it theoretically. I'm not sure how that's possible. I'm not sure where the Bitcoin itself is physically stored on someone's hard drive. Theoretically, it can be. Theoretically, it is possible, but for the sake of the discussion, we're just going to assume yes, it can be done. But
think of it like
it's still the unique entity of the one Bitcoin that could possibly be transferred is what gives the unique Bitcoin scarcity. There is only one instance of that Bitcoin fragment. And once it's transferred, the blockchain recognizes that unique fragment, and other examples of, or other copies of it, are simply automatically going to be invalidated.
So this concept that we euphemize as a Bitcoin is literally just that. It's just a concept. It doesn't have a tangible existence anywhere. So the ledger, when you mine a Bitcoin, it basically adds a block to the chain, and it disperses a bunch of numbers onto other people's wallets that participated in the mining of that Bitcoin. Those numbers are just numbers in a database. Effectively, they're not property. It's just numbers that get credited to cryptographic hashes that make up private wallets. Think of it like a bank, like Chase Bank. I don't know if you have Chase. I'm assuming you do in Canada or wherever you live, but think of it like a bank that.
Wait. Who said I'm Canadian?
I didn't.
I know, but who said I'm Canadian?
You knew the value of the Canadian dollar, so I made an assumption.
I didn't. I was making a joke about how Canada's dollar is worthless.
Okay, cool. It doesn't matter where you're from.
It is worthless.
I'm just saying, think of it like a bank ledger, where there's never been any physical money handed to the bank. It's all just numbers on a ledger, like a checkbook, like your checkbook. Nobody has checkbooks anymore, but a checkbook is just a list of transactions. There's no actual physical object or property stored inside that list of transactions. Does that make sense? The blockchain is that ledger. That is all that Bitcoin is a ledger, a list of transactions. And people agree, currently right now it's about $4,000. They agree that there's value in an entry attached to that ledger. And they agree that if somebody else writes a new line, the first person to write a new line in that ledger saying that this value moves from one series of zeros and ones to another series of zeros and ones, they agree that value moves with it. There's no property involved, though. It's just value. It's perceived value being moved on an agreed upon way.
Let's try this then.
Supply demand.
Let's try this. Let's try this then. Do you own money? Or can you own money?
Define money.
Currency.
I know. Philosophy is like I keep saying this, annoyingly precise language. We have to be annoyingly precise.
Mm-hmm.
So
let's try. Currency? Let's try. Do you own currency? Currency being defined as a medium of exchange.
I own a dollar bill. Yes. I own a piece of paper called a $1 bill that is also called a currency.
Yeah, and for the time being, we're just going to ignore the fact that government currency is worthless in fiat. So
sure.
Do you own? So you own the money that you earn from, say, your job, or you traded with someone, like you repaired their truck and they gave you, I don't know, $500. Do you own that $500?
If they gave it to me in physical objects, I could say I own that money.
So
it's a messy usage of the language to say, when they transfer zeros and ones into my bank account, that they've transferred me property. They've transferred me value that is subjectively valued by other humans.
So the person who sends you $500 into your bank account digitally did not actually give you $500. They gave you the perception that you have $500. You don't have any actual. You don't have any actual.
Fiat's a bad example, but based upon the general premise that we all have an expectation that we can walk into our bank and turn those $500 that exist only in a massive database ledger into tangible cash, let's say.
But the ledger is a deed. You realize that. It's a proof that the transaction took place, and it's proof that you should have received $500 from the guy you repaired the truck for.
Yeah, you could think of paper currency as a claim on X amount of gold back in the day.
Yeah,
you can't do that now.
But yeah, I mean, for the time being, we're just ignoring the fact that dollars are fiat. We're just using it as an example for the sake of discussion.
Yeah, but at least in that situation, then it constitutes a claim or a contract on an actual tangible piece of property, unlike Bitcoin, which is not even a claim on any actual tangible piece of property. It's just a claim on value, which is not property.
Well, why not? I mean, I can still repair your truck, and you give me, I don't know, 1/10 of a Bitcoin,
because
that's now in the blockchain, and I can prove, because it's in the digital ledger, that I should receive 1/10 of a Bitcoin.
But a Bitcoin isn't a piece of property that you can receive. The value that is represented by one Bitcoin can be transferred to you according to the rules. But when you say transferred to you, that makes you think like value is property, but it's not.
All right. So
you do realize the dollar bill, the concept of dollar bills, the way the bills worked was originally meant to show that you were paid in gold, right? I mean, paper wallets work like cash. So let's say you use a paper wallet and give that to someone with that amount. With the amount,
I lost my train of thought.
The dollar bill used to represent gold on deposit. So when you handed somebody a dollar bill, it was agreed that they could then walk to your bank and trade in that. Actually, it was a check originally. You wrote a check that represented a claim on gold you had on deposit. Somebody else could take your check to a bank, hand that bank that check, and the bank would be required on contract to hand you the correct amount of actual physical gold. So a check like a contract.
Mm-hmm. Could you not say then that the transfer, you not say that the same is also true digitally? You can't say sign a check digitally.
You can make contracts digitally. I think that's fine. I mean, a contract.
Sure, but can you sign a check digitally?
It's a check is, if we're talking about check in terms of a contract, then yeah, sure, you can make contracts digitally.
Yeah,
but the property that's transferred for the contract has to be actual property.
Mm-hmm.
If the contract is for a transfer of property, because there's contracts that don't involve transfer of property. I think if I employ you in my company, I'm contracting with you to use your property in the way I want. No property is changing hands. You're just you're behaving in an agreed upon way in exchange for something that you find of value, which could be Bitcoin. It could be a check. It could be tickets to Kmart. I don't know.
I'm just having trouble understanding what changes when it's digital versus when it's a physical piece of paper. Or it could be anything, because many things have been used as mediums of exchange throughout history.
It's probably because it's one of the first examples in history where value is firmly separated from anything tangible or anything property. Like even when people use fiat currency, they still think of it in terms of tangible, actual, valid property, when it's really just agreed upon, like kind of like a societal, messy, agreed upon value that kind of changes all at once and is manipulated by the Fed.
What?
I'm just making fun of that one guy who said people agree it has value.
Yeah, I mean the thing with fiat is that they keep printing it and printing it and printing it. I mean, the reason Bitcoin has value is for the same reason that anything else has value: supply and demand. The more of a supply there is, and with the demand being the same, people are going to value it less. So, while technically true that people agree that it has value, if you're going to go with that route, you can explain precisely nothing. You can predict precisely nothing.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Well, then what's the argument?
I'm not trying to argue. I'm just pointing out. I guess all I'm pointing out is that something doesn't have to be property for it to have value.
I mean, that's not possible because you can't exchange something that's not property.
Mm-hmm.
You don't.
If you don't own something, then you don't have the right to exchange it. If everybody owns it, then everybody's free to do whatever they want with it, including destroy it.
If I have, if I know a password in my head, a password that maybe, I don't know, decrypts some file somewhere, and you really want that file, the password in my head has value to you and is not property and can be transferred to you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I was just giving you an example of value that can be transferred without property.
I mean, it kind of, interesting.
Kind of begs the question as to how cryptocurrency is not property just because it's digital. I mean, that's the thing. It just begs the question.
So the analog is with Bitcoin is there's a pattern of zeros and ones on my hard drive, and believe me, there is, that has value to you. And if I transferred that secret to you, it's the same thing as a secret in my head. It's just a pattern that has meaning to you that you value. Then I've transferred value to you, but property hasn't necessarily transferred. You can copy my hard drive 1,000 times. Property still hasn't transferred, but something you value is now accessible to you. That's all I'm saying. And that kind of, I don't know if you were around for the beginning of this whole conversation when we were talking about the similarities, or I guess the things about cryptocurrency that, you know, just are communist wet dreams. The decentralization being one of them, so that there's no central quote unquote owner of the technology. Everything's a giant democratic messy shitstorm where everybody sort of votes and gets a say and pulls the technology in 50 different directions.
The same could be said for a free market. Sorry to interrupt. That everybody's voting with their wallets on, say, what restaurants are going to succeed or fail.
Yes.
Yeah, what do you think free market is in the first place? It's a decentralized market. So just because it's decentralized does not make it communist.
They're controlling a piece of technology in a democratic fashion. Just like a commune would do. They control all of their resources in a democratic fashion. Unlike a private company, which controls its resources in a I don't even like saying hierarchical fashion. It's privately owned, so in a dictatorial fashion, let's say. So if there was a privately owned cryptocurrency, and I wanted to iterate it in a certain direction, I could do that immediately without asking, begging, or pleading with a big group of people and forking 500 times. I could just do it because I own it.
I mean, I'm not saying that it being communistic is a bad thing, because I've moved past that, and as long as all participants voluntarily consent, I don't care.
Well, I'm not using it in a disparaging way either. I'm just trying to get people to understand the nature of the thing that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
That's all.
I mean, you made a good point about the password. I'll give you that.
But then the difference between, part of the difference between that and this is, in a communist society, the quote-unquote democratic process is where they take it by force. Whereas in libertarian society, what am I trying to say? Help me out, Filthy.
I think you're getting a little too hung up on the democracy part.
And so when I draw the lines of similarity between cryptocurrency and communistic or communes, I do that just so that we can be more aware of the possible risks. So all the risks, well, I won't say all, but most of the risks that exist in a commune and how communes run, and most of the reasons why communes fall apart and splinter into 1,000 pieces and then dissolve into nothingness, can be usually equally risks in technology, like Bitcoin. You see a bunch of people with a bunch of different interests all pulling democratically in different directions. It forks, it loses value, it's messy. We can't be confident that it's even going to exist in any valued fashion in several months, because who knows what's going to happen. These are all problems of the commune, and so that's a risk. That's the only reason I bring it up. I think it's a necessary risk right now. Let me talk to the other side of this argument for a minute. It's a necessary risk because as long as the state exists, we can't afford to have anything centralized, because anything centralized is destroyable, controllable by the state. So we need this decentralization technology. But what I was saying earlier, decentralization should not be thought of as the end. It should be thought of as a means to get to freedom. And then once we achieve freedom, once we don't have a centralized state that can control centralized entities anymore, I would probably predict that crypto would lose at least a portion of its utility, because centralized technologies work better just by efficiency.
How is it efficient if there's a central point to attack that could destroy the whole thing?
I'm not saying that a central point of attack is not a risk. It's a risk that every private company today faces.
What we would
I
need
have no idea if it'll be. We're actually like in the early days of decentralized technology. While we're seeing hints of it in terms of modern technology, I think we're only scratching the surface in terms of what it's fully capable of. Will it be more efficient or less efficient? I'm pretty sure it'll be more efficient, but fundamentally, I don't know. The best way to find out, free market.
Absolutely. As a database technology, it's unequivocally the least efficient database technology ever created. That's not to say that computing power will not increase to the point over the next 10 years that it will be able to keep up with a MasterCard type network. But it still has an inherent weakness that is necessary right now to keep it decentralized.
Well, right now, I think you're already aware that Bitcoin has already overtaken MasterCard in terms of daily transactions.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah, so in terms of its ability to be used in exchange, that's not really in dispute. Now, is it the best medium of exchange? I mean, last I remember, it has $42 in transaction fees, which is by any standard measurement outrageous. But that's where newer technology like Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Dogecoin, a literal meme coin, has value now. That's hilarious to me.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
To say
don't
the
get
least.
it.
But yeah. In terms of in terms of it being in terms of how it works in databases and in terms of storing information, I don't know how that works. I don't know how efficient it is. It probably doesn't even need to be efficient, because for all I know, everything will be so heavily distributed that it doesn't need to be data-based. But we'll see, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly I'm just pleading ignorance here.
I just did a quick Google because I was really surprised to hear that you said MasterCard or Bitcoin was doing more than MasterCard. my quick Google, and I could be wrong. I'm fallible for sure, and so is Google. Bitcoin is at 285,000 transactions per day. Visa is 150 million.
Jeez.
So I'll just throw that out there. I could be wrong. This is just a quick Google. Those aren't always accurate. Just food for thought.
Yeah.
Even if true, I doubt it will last for. I doubt it will even last 5 decades, considering how the big financial institutions are losing trust daily.
And here's the other thing. So like the Visa and MasterCard transactions per day, that's all the transactions that anybody wants. Like nobody's ever used a Visa card and been like, oh, my transaction didn't go through, Visa was too busy. So we know what the upper limit is for transactions per day. So all we need to do now is wait for the transaction power of computing to increase to the point where Bitcoin can match that. So I mean, so I'm just kind of speaking against myself now. That eventually Bitcoin can get to that point.
Yeah, and I also thought about that password analogy you made. My response is that the password in your head can be duplicated endlessly. The same cannot quite be said for Bitcoin. I say quite because as we've already established not long ago, yes, Bitcoin can be duplicated, at least theoretically, but it can only be transferred once. So for all intents and purposes, the unique entity of the one Bitcoin still exists, and its scarcity does. The analogy would be more accurate if you said that the password can only be entered once.
But nothing is transferred when a Bitcoin is sent. No property is transferred, only value.
Well,
because when you create a new Bitcoin transaction, all you're doing is adding a line to the ledger.
And that line of ledger says that you now have an additional amount of a medium of exchange.
That's a euphemism for what's actually going on, which means that your zeros and ones in your wallet are subjectively valued higher now, or less if you sent.
The same could be said for any currency. Anytime you receive a dollar, even before the days, or even before 1913, when the Federal Reserve Act was put into place and we were partially taken off the gold standard, whenever you received a dollar, you only received $1 worth of something that was subjectively valued. And make no mistake, gold is subjectively valued. The only reason it's a medium of exchange is because it can be divided, it can be transported, and it has a lot of ornamental value because it's shiny.
I'm not arguing with you on any of that. The only difference with gold is that when you transfer gold, property actually transfers along with the subjective value of it.
I think your real question is, can something or anything digital have value?
No, digital things can certainly have value. That's why people pay for.
I'm sorry. I misspoke. I'm sorry. Okay. Can anything digital be property?
Patterns are not property. So if when you say things digital, if you mean patterns of zeros and ones, that is definitionally, axiomatically not property. It can be valued all day long, every day. Certainly is. I'm not arguing with you there.
Mm-hmm. I think it can be property. It just needs scarcity, which cryptocurrency has. I don't think we'll agree on this one, but I think at least I know where you're coming from.
So it doesn't have scarcity because literally everyone has a copy of the ledger. It's like the least scarcity thing ever.
Well, that just means that the ledger doesn't have value. Doesn't mean that the coins themselves don't have value. It's sort of like everybody having a copy of the bank's ledgers, and they just have it in their home. Like, I don't know, like what's it called? Yellow Book. Sends it to everybody's house.
I'm not saying they don't have value. Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree. The patterns of zeros and ones have value all day.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't think the ledger not having value or not being I don't think the ledger has anything to do with the coins themselves, aside from just being listing of where they're going. Assuming you can break the encryption.
Okay, let me try one more time if you have time. I'm
Sure.
happy to give it one more shot. So, like, if you get together with a group of 10 friends, let's say, and you all agree to work on this project together, and you all agree that for every hour each of you work on the project, that everybody's going to remember in their heads that you get one sort of credit hour, let's say.
Sure.
So everybody, you know, kind of all agrees every time everybody gets together and work, how many credit hours each person owns. And I say that, you know, in air quotes, because it's, you know, it's not property, it's just thoughts in people's heads. So there's value in that stored, agreed upon ledger that's in everyone's hands, but it's not property.
I mean, it's a contract. They're making a verbal contract, aren't they?
Yeah, you could think of that as a contract, just like the code backing Bitcoin could be thought of as a contract. Unfortunately, the terms of that contract are subject to communal democratic control, so it's kind of shaky in that regard sometimes. But you could think of it as, in terms of, you know, a contract. I'm gonna use this series of bits in a, you know, zeros and ones in a certain way. Yeah, sure. That doesn't make it property, though. I agree that you could make a case that it functions as a contract.
Yeah, I still think that the Bitcoins do have scarcity, and therefore they can be thought of as property.
Yeah, and this begs the question as to how Bitcoin specifically can be copied, because so far nobody's been able to copy it in a way that it's actually the real thing.
You should stop saying the word copy, because copying is easy. What you're saying is double spend.
Yeah, but I think we went over this already, that you could duplicate a coin as much, the code that makes up a coin or a fragment of a coin as much as you want, but it can only be entered into the ledger once. You can't double spend. You can't give yourself infinite Bitcoins just by copy pasting.
So think about that. Okay, when you enter an item into a ledger using the patterns of zeros and ones that is your wallet, you're entering that transaction into the ledger in a way according to the contract that everybody has agreed on to use Bitcoin. That doesn't even need property to be even a thing in the equation. You're just interacting with the contract in an agreed upon way. Well, let me ask you this: what is your attachment? What is your I don't want to say desire, because I don't want to. I'm not trying to insult you. What is
I desire to live forever.
Where does your need for this to be a valid form of property stem from?
I'm not sure.
That sounds like a bit of a leading question.
Because the entire thing can function exactly as it is. It's perfectly fine. You're interacting with a shared, agreed upon contract to exchange subjective value with each other. It's all fine. You don't even need the concept of property. That's how banks work today, man. Like when we use our Visa and MasterCard, we're just moving lines and ledgers around amongst banks. There's no property changing hands, just value moving all over the place. There's nothing wrong with moving value all over the place. It's just that with banks, you know, ostensibly, we have an additional contract that allows us to trade that value for fiat, quote unquote, property money. Anyway,
yeah, I don't think we're gonna. I think we're gonna be going in circles a bit. So I think we'll just have to agree to disagree for right now.
Well, I never agree to disagree, but I'm happy to continue the conversation when you like.
All right.
Yeah, I'd probably have to watch this entire stream all over again just to understand it all.
Yeah, probably.
Oh
Yeah,
no! Did we go over your head? Oh no! Are you? Freaking hell!
No, you didn't go entirely over my head. It's just like this whole discussion. I'd have to go over it all over again to wrap my head around it again.
It's pretty dense, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, how long are these usually?
Sometimes 2 to 3 hours, sometimes 4.
Holy crap! Well, I have another topic if you want, or we can. I don't know if you have a path that you usually take these.
No,
I'm open for it. Like what? Like what do you like what other topic are you interested in?
I wanted to bring up something I was going to do a video on my channel that kind of gave me a little hope that the culture wasn't flying as fast to the left as they want us to think it is. I was looking at a lot of the media that's come out recently. So I'm looking at, like STD, Star Trek Discovery, and the Klingorks.
That's a fantastic name for a show. That's a fantastic acronym for a show. There's no way they didn't do that on purpose.
Oh no, I did that. Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't think they did it on purpose.
Excuse me, but what were they thinking? What the fuck?
That's really good. So
can't you say Star Trek Odyssey or something?
No,
So
Star Trek Discovery.
So STD, the utter vandalism of Doctor Who, Star Wars.
So much Star Wars.
I have to say it 3 or 4 times because they keep doing it. Ghostbusters movie. I checked out like 6 of these titles that have come out over the past couple of years on RottenTomato.com. And there's something interesting and unique about what's happening with their Rotten Tomato scores. You see their review, like their official or professional review, I forgot what they call that, professional critics score, sky high, and you see the score given by the normal people, the plebs, like in the garbage. And so there's a big disparity on all these media that's come out that have this SJW theme to them. And then if you check out other media that's come out that has pissed off the SJWs, the opposite is true. The critic scores are in the shitter and the people scores are way up high. That gives me hope that people are not just like accepting this garbage out of Hollywood.
They're not brainless NPCs.
It's actually a lot worse than you think. I remember someone did a scoured some of the reviews for Star Wars The Last Jedi, which I think we can all agree was a bad movie.
Yeah. I actually haven't seen it, but I've heard plenty of how bad it is. So
I mean it's well put together, but it's like a well put together house that's entirely made of poop. So anyways,
it's a well dressed piece of shit.
Pretty much. So anyways, someone took the audience score and they found that it's artificially inflated, but not because of like any number shenanigans, but just because audience scores of 0 are not counted in the overall review. So someone went through it, did a numbers thing. It's like you rate it on a scale of 0 to 5, and you can do like 0.5, 2.5, that sort of thing. So there's halves, and they decided to try to take their own stab at counting what the audience score would have been if zeros were counted. And they just took a cross section of like 100 reviews taken at random. Well, not really at random, but just like the 100 audience score reviews at the time of him recording. And he found that from that 100, it had an audience score of 22%.
Wow.
So you're seeing a lot of these SJW movies with those low audience scores are actually probably a lot worse than you think, because the people who put 0 are not counted.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
And there's that other thing that broke about a month ago on the video game reviews, right? I don't know if you guys have heard about this, where because the Rotten Tomatoes score, not Rotten Tomatoes, the Metacritic, thank you. The Metacritic scores are like written in the contracts of the game developers, and because the critics are SJW as fuck, the game developers are leaning towards the critics to get their Metacritic score to get their bonus checks, and so that's manipulated to hell.
Yay.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of point this out to like maybe society isn't going to shit quite as fast as we're being led to believe, but
yeah, it's a relief.
Well, I mean, you see all these. You'll occasionally see examples of TV shows and video games that push back against SJW culture, that mock it, and that stuff. Yeah. Those clips go viral. You have Mr. Burns being angry at how SJW Yale University has become. You have that one scene where in Sonic Boom, Knuckles points out that the idea of women breaking the glass ceiling ultimately reinforces women being put down and stuff like that. It's absolutely amazing.
Yoo-hoo.
Wow.
Yeah, that reminds me. Raging Golden Eagle mentioned that the only thing that really kept Sony afloat was the games, and now that they've pretty much alienated a great deal of developers, they're not gonna come back once they're down. I mean, some of the stuff Raging Golden Eagle does, I do not endorse, but when it comes to the actual economics and politics, we agree roughly 80 to 99% of the time. Of course, he's still a status, it sounds like, but
take what you can get, I guess.
Yeah.
I can't find it right now, but I was looking at the season finale of that most recent Doctor Who episode. And when I looked at it a couple days ago, the critic score was literally 100%, and the viewer score was literally like 13%. Oh. And it seems like the viewer scores are hidden now. I can't find the viewer scores. I can't find the viewer scores on the individual episodes.
Oof.
I got one thing to say to those critics.
What's that, Zach?
Oh, what's this? Oh, okay. I just found something. Apparently, Donald Trump is going to deliver an emergency primetime address about the border wall this Tuesday at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard.
Oh, snap.
Yes.
Exterminate! Exterminate!
Allow me.
I hope you don't. Let's just say, I hope you don't own any property at the border because Trump is going to take it.
Yeah, he will.
Yeah, allow me.
But as I was pointing out earlier, the wall is futile because they're just going to use the boats, and it's not feasible to form a blockade.
Yeah, allow me to do that Dalek voice again. Exterminate!
Cease.
All right.
And An Eye for Capitalism says it's especially egregious since SJWs would rather hijack a series rather than create something original. That is their MO. Everything. They infiltrate and destroy comics. They destroy every IP they can get their hands on. They destroy gaming. They destroy like that. They can't make their own stuff. They just can't.
When they
try, a bunch of mindless puritanical NPCs.
Well, that's because the reason why they're everything that SJW goes to shit is because again they won't take. They're a bunch of pussies. Obviously, we all know this. Again, they're all just a bunch of fucking pussies, and they can't take criticism. They can't think in dynamics and all that stuff. And also, a lot of SJWs are unintelligent people usually, and they cannot usually think in dynamics and all that stuff, different types of story and story concepts and all that stuff. I don't know, take an example, I don't know, of I'm trying to think of a good story to take good from. Well, there's plenty of good stories out there. I'm just can't think right now. I don't know, Alien, for example, of all the different concepts and all of it and stuff like that. Even in this design, it doesn't take a psychological genius that it has a lot of sensitive topics involved in it and all that stuff. But you can see all the different story beats and all that stuff that keeps the story interesting and all that. Even I know I'm being incredibly vague here and all that stuff, and I'm being kind of rambly, but you get what I mean, right? But with their SJW comics and all stuff, it's all blunt, simple, straight in your face. I'm not saying a blunt storyline is bad necessarily. It depends on the way you handle it. They either handle it bad or they either handle it bad or they come up with a too blunt of a storyline or both or something like that. You get my point.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not quite true that they don't do creativity, but I'll try to get on that later. But I can think of two reasons.
Sorry. Go on.
I can think of two reasons why they wouldn't want to do their own stuff. One, because, well, it's the same thing. It's the same equation that most marketing people in Hollywood in general and gaming in general have figured out. That if you try to make a sequel, a prequel, or something that people are more familiar with, there's a more guaranteed chance of sales. So they're more likely to see it. So it's a lot. Plus, there's a lot of other source material that already exists. So there's a lot less effort in trying to come up with characters, trying to come up with settings, trying to come up with all sorts of stuff. Of course, you can argue about whether that's actually true or not, but I'm pretty sure that factors into the mindset of SJW, quote unquote, creative people. And the second reason is because when they do try to come up with original things, which they have done in the past, and they're trying to do right now, I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of High Guardian Spice on Crunchyroll. It sucks.
You're totally right. Well said. Like if they tried to sell SJW Trek and the Kling Orcs as like an original IP, it would never get off the ground. It just wouldn't. It's not quality entertainment. But you slap Star Trek name on it, and now it's gonna make money for at least the first season.
Yeah.
Well, it's also the fact that they're constantly trying to shove an agenda in your face. Like again, you have to look at the Battlefield, like the Battlefield 5 trailer, for example, or whatever.
Or Supergirl.
Oh yeah, that
Supergirl. Yeah.
It's like women with prosthetic arms in World War II. Just think about it, like and all that. And also, it was even confirmed by a DICE developer tweet or whatever that he like confirmed that they're trying to friggin' push an agenda and all that. Ugh.
Yeah, I was gonna say, at least the Christian. Hey, Revan.
Sorry.
At least the Christian. Hey, Revan. At
Go
least
on,
the Christian. All right. At least.
Sometimes this happens.
Yeah, more often than you think. Anyway, at least the Christian movies have some degree of creativity to them, like War Room, for example. I mean, that's about prayer and such. And okay, not many people know about that, but oh, you get my drift.
Yeah.
Anyone is more creative than these NPCs.
Well, that's again, that's because these people are not very. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them are not very intelligent, and when they do it, it still sucks because again, they're trying to force an agenda one way or another in your face.
Typically, it follows that they want to push an agenda first and then tell a story second, which is how you get things like Mary Sue Skywalker in the new Star Wars movies.
Oh my gosh, yes.
We do not speak of her.
Yes, we do. We speak of her in mockery.
Don't hold my hand. I don't need no man.
Oh my gosh, it's totally the coolest. Whatever. Oh fuck. You're breaking my soul right now.
Yes.
You're breaking the Sith Lord's soul right now.
You don't have a soul.
No.
Yeah.
I have an autistic soul. Shut up.
I simply laughed. I simply laughed at that hard going. Lady, he's always trying to help you, idiot. I mean, I just laughed at that. At her.
It's also due to them not being able to take criticism, and they're also not going to listen to, for example, the cis white male veterans and all that stuff or whatever. Oh fuck, they won't even listen to people whatever to anybody. They're just pussies. I'm on it.
Stuck in their echo chambers.
Yeah, they can't take any form of constructive criticism, whatever, and all that. Again, these are the people who, whatever, when they get called snowflakes, they say that when we do call them snowflakes, that makes us mentally ill or something like that. I'm like, what the fuck? Not kidding you about that. That's no.
Yeah,
They're
Mark.
I'm still waiting to be diagnosed with sluggish schizophrenia.
Yeah.
With what?
Sluggish schizophrenia.
Anyway,
sluggish schizophrenia is a disease that was discovered in the Soviet Union by Soviet psychiatrists exclusively in people who disagreed with the Bolshevik regime.
Oh, so it wasn't real. It was just.
It was a pretense for putting people in hospitals indefinitely.
Oh damn!
And so I'm pretty sure
gulags.
That was for people that they want gulags. and they did that as well. They had multiple options. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll be diagnosed with sluggish schizophrenia.
I think we all might.
Hey.
Yeah.
Well, variants that thereof, like they'll come up with a new version or something like that.
Yeah, I went to the March for Our Lives in Dallas. Like 30,000 people marching to have their rights removed. And I got into an argument with one guy that's like, all veterans come back with some form of PTSD, and nobody with PTSD should be allowed to have guns. We should, we should get all these people checked out, and anybody with PTSD should be reported and banned from having guns. I'm like, dude, do you realize that if you make it to where people with that diagnosis can't get the means to protect themselves, that people will simply stop going to get diagnosed for fear of having their rights taken away? And what's worse, a guy with PTSD or an undiagnosed guy with PTSD that can't get medication if he needs it? And he was like, well, you're just going to come up with whatever excuse that you need to come up with to keep your guns. And then he stormed off. I have this on video.
Well, that's glorious.
Oh my gosh, dude. Post that online. Oh my god. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like with like now who the fuck is now going to like get help now and all that stuff or whatever or whatever now, if that's going to be the case. It's the same thing with the mental illness thing. Again, like with Shane Killian pointed out with the mental illness video. If you come up with a mental illness registry or something like that, people are not going to friggin' do it or whatever and all that stuff.
Yeah,
or whatever.
and everything I don't like is a mental illness. You know?
Of course, and you already
pasted
know
the
that
link
they're
in
going
group
to-
chat.
We already know that the government is perfectly willing to develop and just invent new mental illnesses for the purposes of stigmatizing people that they don't like, or even just medicating them pointlessly. So who's to say that completely benign mental illnesses that allow people to live completely normal lives, for example, dyslexia, autism, ADHD, those won't be basis for getting people's gun rights revoked.
Or have you ever heard of the drapetomania? That was a mental illness the South came up with to explain why slaves would escape.
I've not heard of that, actually. That's amazing.
Can you spell that? I want to Google it.
DRAPET.
Got it. Drapetomania. I got it.
Oh, okay.
Drapetomania was a conjectural mental illness that in 1851 hypothesized as the cause of enslaved Africans fleeing captivity. It has since been debunked as pseudoscience. Imagine that.
Huh, weird. I don't know why they would think that.
Wow.
Damn. Yeah, but damn. Well, okay. Well, these again, and also that person doesn't realize that those PTSD people, all they have to do is go to the black market and all that stuff and whatever, and all that. You're just gonna encourage all the mentally ill people and all that stuff, and people with PTSD and all that stuff, or any sort of disorders. Just go to the black market and just
Good. I mean, better.
I was going to say worse, because then they're going to be taking medication without an actual diagnosis. They're going to be guessing at what they have and taking, medication that can affect their mental state. That sounds terrifying.
Well, no, there's doctors that work in the black market.
Yeah,
okay.
Like actual people who know what they're doing.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good.
So,
for sure.
I mean, obviously, there's a risk of get hacked, talentless hacks who have no idea what they're doing, but.
Yeah.
Well, my point is that what I'm saying is that every single what my point is that as usual is that every single variant that they're forcing their way upon someone else is going to backfire. That's my point, and that's a good thing.
Hey, now, can I please say what I was going to say earlier?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Ah.
Sorry.
Anyway, back to the Star Wars thing. I just love how Mark Hamill handled it and commented how the whole thing was wrong with the Last Jedi.
You're botting out.
Your comments he gave.
You're roboting.
You're becoming an NPC. Come back. Come back.
Oh no.
Return to us. Remember, Orange Man, Orange Man, Orange Man,
No, Space Fox bad.
Space Fox bad, Space Fox bad.
Oh, that's what we're calling Mark Hamill now?
No, that's Esso.
Oh. Yeah, I just love how Mark Hamill just ripped into the director and the movies. You know, the latest Star Wars ones.
Yeah, you can tell he had a lot of pent-up frustration about that.
Oh yeah.
It's his entire legacy getting shit on. I'm surprised he didn't go off more like harder, crazier.
Oh yeah, I mean, if I were him, I'd just be like, look, I'm probably gonna die in 10 or 20 years. This is gonna be my last chance to play this character and still actually be someone who could be able to play the part. And you made me be some depressed loser who saw the good in mother freaking Darth Vader, but can't see the good in freaking my best friend's son, who may be having a few edgy thoughts and likes to dress in black sometimes.
Yeah, I understood that. Go ahead, Patrick.
Oh, I was just laughing. Yeah, that's right. That was my chuckle of agreement.
Yay. We think we lost Zach.
Yeah.
Aw. That's unfortunate.
He's back.
All right, hello.
Yay.
I'm back. Connection was lost for a moment.
All right.
All right, well, I've got about 15 more minutes or so. So if there's anything that you guys wanted to talk with me about.
Right now, I think we're just shit posting now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit
Let's check the live chat.
Shit post with
Let's see. I think Ancapistani was agreeing with what Revan was saying about SJWs, that Revan is right on point. They project, they can't imagine or conceptualize something outside their identity, hence why they defer to that specific identity as an, quote, expert.
Yeah, they're just unintelligent as fuck. It's obvious, whatever and all that. So I'm not saying every single SJW is unintelligent. I'm just saying the majority of them seem like it because that's why they fall into that cult-like thing. Because again, it's very similar to like a mind of a child where everything has to revolve around them in a sense, if that makes sense in context, or everything has to revolve around their identity and all of that, and then they don't, and they're so stupid that they don't even know how to, or the majority of them are, where they don't even know how to like put their agenda in a place where it's like subtle, or that it's like, you know, they just can't make it like they just can't, like they can't have any basic form of like subtlety or whatever, or do anything like creative with like their ideas and all that stuff. I don't know, for example, for example, in the Battlefield 5 or whatever, they could have done something like cool with like, have you ever guys ever heard of Lady Death?
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that the
Russian
sniper who killed like 250 Nazis?
Yeah, exactly. And she was in the Russian Soviet army. Again, they could have done something like something very similar to like I don't know, like
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty, in the sense that again, it's like a bloody, gory war, and it shows her like going through all the stuff in this gruesome like war story and all that stuff. Very similar like to Call of Duty World at War, not the newest one, but whatever. Like, because World at War's campaign was amazing. But anyway. But yeah, they could have shown her with subtlety, like the bloody, gory, like war and all that stuff, and all the horrible things that she had to endure. And then, as showing all the horrible things that she had to endure and all that stuff during the war, they can demonstrate that women can fight too and all that stuff or whatever and all that in a very subtle and nice way without shoving an agenda in her face. But no, instead in the trailer they have a woman with a prosthetic arm doing all kinds of stupid, crazy shit instead. It's like, come on, like that barely took any thought for me to come up with right there. Whatever, and I came up with that a long time ago.
Yeah, that brings to mind the Sabaton song about called Night Witches, which is basically, yeah, Sabaton's known for making songs about all sorts of battles, people that fought and wars and all that. Night Witches is a song that commemorates that's basically about a bunch of an all-women air bomber regiment from World War II under the Soviet Union.
But anyway, my point is, yeah, you can demonstrate, like, again, like, people don't like being talked like they're stupid or whatever and all that stuff, and people don't like things blunt and shoved in their face or something like that, or thereof, or some other form of thereof, and whatever and all that. So all you have to do is just show, like, again, all you have to do is show an awesome war story about that or something like that, where she fights through the blood and guts with other I guess comrades or Soviet comrades or whatever, when she's using a Mosin or whatever. Like, they probably use a Mosin to God or something like that at that point in time or whatever. Probably not. I don't know. At this point, whatever. My point is, obviously, is that, again, they could have done something very creative and awesome here and all that stuff. And they, again, because of the unintelligence of an SJW or something like that, they failed epically, per usual. It's, again, like, and all that, whatever. You get my point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and Sabaton doesn't even have an agenda when they sing their songs. It's just, they just like singing about military history.
As a company, you're not supposed to. As a company, what you're doing is supposed to make the best item, or not the best like, what is it called again, product for your customer or whatever and all that stuff or whatever, and you're whatever, and showing a blade, like, they would have made DICE would have made their like, what is it called again, their product a lot better or whatever, or something or whatever, if they went with that or whatever and showed, like, in their trailer, like, the Russian woman of Lady Death or whatever, because they have done true war stories in the Battlefield 5 campaign. If they did something like that or whatever instead or whatever and all that, where they knew some form of subtlety and all that, they would have probably made a shit ton of money and whatever, and Battlefield 5 would have done a fuck ton better. Right now, it's the lowest selling Battlefield game currently out right now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I was just saying that Sabaton does not even have an agenda. Sabaton just likes singing about military history. That's all there is to it. They just like singing about history.
I know. I'm just reinforcing your point that that's a good thing, that they don't have an agenda. That's a good thing. You're not supposed to have an agenda as a company, or not like that, at least.
Right. At least not a blatant one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, or at least when you do it, at least, like, again, you got to do it with subtlety and make it so it's like, again, like, it's got subtlety and it's got creativity in it and all that and such, and all the things we talked about.
Building of suspense and all that.
Yeah, exactly. You got to have, again, like, as I said, just do the war story with the Russian, lady Lady Death or whatever. They could have done that. That's a huge opportunity that they could have done something like that or whatever, or something similar or whatever. There's probably more war stories with women out there that have done things capably and all that stuff. They even have a war story like that, I think, in the Battlefield campaign, where there's two women that completed a mission against the Nazis without firing a single shot or whatever, something like that. Like, or whatever. Well, you have to fire shots in game or whatever, or you most likely have to, but again, like, all you have to do is put in the credits, like, oh, these people did it without firing a single shot. But you get the point.
Yeah, you were saying, Filthy?
Yeah, I think the most devastating aspect of this is that when you do want to tell these stories, when you do want to tell a story about Lady Death or any other, like, just great female characters, female heroines, female whatever, people are going to be so inured to this. They're just going to be so fed up with social justice crap being torn down their throats that whenever you actually do tell these stories, people are automatically just not going to want to hear them. You're sabotaging the future stories.
Yeah, exactly. Even the other women and all that stuff won't probably like it either.
No, people just won't want anything to do with it.
Well,
they'll see, I don't know, Star Wars Episode 12, the good edition, and they'll see, like, I don't know, some female Jedi and just be like, oh yeah, she's gonna be a Mary Sue, and she goes through an actual story, or she'll go through an actual like character arc. She'll struggle, she'll fail, but she'll ultimately triumph in the end through hard fought battles and hard won. But people are still gonna have this idea in their head that this character's a Mary Sue, so they'll have that confirmation bias.
Well, depends on the person, but all right, whatever. But again, you got to look at all these. Like again, there's a lot of people who are anti-social justice most of the time, or whatever, for them, or whatever, are more intelligent and all that stuff. So they might be able to come across it, but still, it's but I would note that Filthy is correct in the sense that yeah, it's going to take a long time for people to come back to that conclusion. I think is what I'm going to agree with Filthy on right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, imagine this can be undone. I imagine Filthy agrees with me, but it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
For that kind of damage to be undone.
Oh yeah.
Great. So yeah, great job. You kind of made a good female characters. Like, well, I wouldn't say impossible, but kind of
more difficult.
Kind of difficult, yeah, without people thinking it's a Mary Sue. So great job, Social. Yeah, again, like it comes back to how every single time they try a new tactic or something like that, they shoot themselves in the foot in some way or something like that. But that was probably another topic anyway. But you get the point.
And then they come back, and then they try to pinpoint the blame on us.
Probably, or something, or something similar to thereof. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it. At the end of the day, it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. They look at that, oh, it's probably going to be another Mary Sue, and they leave. Sexist! It just becomes a spiraling cycle.
Yeah, well, it's because they have no idea how to counter things or whatever, or not. They don't know how to look at things objectively. They're so fucking stupid. Again, that's the reason why you have the majority of them are fucking stupid, or they're either misled or fucking stupid as fuck. I'm going to be honest. Most social justice warriors.
Yeah.
The only way they're really going to learn is when they're. The only way they're really going to learn is when they go bankrupt and realize, man, it's not working. What are we doing wrong?
Oh well, again, it's a combination of all. It's like the perfect storm with these, with how bad like stories get with these dumb fucks.
Mm-hmm.
Again, what I mean by the perfect storm, like think about like how the how the perfect storm manifested itself, or something like that, where all the conditions were perfect for things to go wrong and all that stuff. That's the thing with these social justice warriors. Everything's perfect for for things to go wrong in the stories and all that stuff that they tell and all that, because there's more reasons than this, but I'm just going to list some of the reasons. They can't take criticism for anything, especially from the horrible white males. B, they can't again, they're really unintelligent and all that stuff. They're like very childlike and narcissistic, like, and all that, in the sense that the whole world revolves around them and all that stuff, in a sense, or whatever, and or whatever, or they forge their identity around social justice as a whole, or something like that. Not necessarily narcissistic, I guess, in that sense. But
We've touched on these points quite a bit already, so it's probably best to just move on to another topic.
I'm trying to make a final point here. Again, my point is that it's basically a perfect storm, et cetera, et cetera. It's a perfect storm of how bad, like, every single time these people touch something, it's going to go bad one way or another.
Okay, let's just leave it at that and move on.
Yeah, and Catboy says he's going to bed. Good stream, everyone. Before I go, I'm just going to leave this gym here. The next chronicle and the saga of Florida Man.
Florida Man!
What has Florida Man done this time?
Okay.
Florida Man. And I don't know the rest of the Spider-Man theme song.
Well, let's see. I know this week Florida Man proposed a bill in the U.S. Senate to give money to U.S. states that implement red flag laws.
Oh, that's Florida Man being dumb, not being
Okay, that's not funny.
It's true though, sadly.
I'm looking at the link right now. Florida man denies syringes found inside rectum are his.
Yeah, that's not funny, dude. That's just stupid. That's just sad.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
math
God.
that just makes you sad.
Oh, Revan, you remember on Discord, Golden Dash just ripping into Florida Man with all sorts of scenarios, and we were just laughing our heads off.
Yeah. Well, now I'm just thinking about all the Spider-Man memes I have right now. That's what I'm thinking about.
Oh no.
Naked Florida man shoots cop with crossbow.
Oh, okay, bad.
Florida man attempts time travel, crashes into building instead. Florida man steals shoes after job interview.
Florida Man a hero or a villain?
Florida man is an anti-hero.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Who would win, Florida Man or Deadpool?
Florida man on the run after shoving foot-long sandwich down his pants.
Hang on, hold on. Or is Florida Man Deadpool, where whatever and all that, and people are just covering it up that Deadpool exists?
I think Florida man is crazier than Deadpool.
Yeah.
I literally found
Deadpool's literally the guy who sticked his dick in death. Not kidding you. Just
yeah.
The guy
I
that-
found the article in the medical journal from 1851 on drapetomania. Can I read you a paragraph? It's
Yes.
fucking
Sure.
nuts.
Go.
ANCAP I says Florida is like the real life version of the ANCAP ball strawman memes.
This recording will be taken wildly out of context by some asshole. I know, but I'm going to read it anyway.
Yep.
If the white man attempts to oppose the deity's will by trying to make the Negro anything else than the submissive knee bender, which the Almighty declared he should be, this is a medical journal, by the way, by trying to raise him to a level with himself or by putting himself on an equality with the Negro, or if he abuses the power which God has given him over his fellow man, by being cruel to him or punishing him in anger, or by neglecting to protect him from the wanton abuses of his fellow servants and all others, or by denying him the usual comforts and necessaries of life, the Negro will run away. But if he keeps him in the position that we learn from the scriptures he was intended to occupy, that is, the position of submission, and if his master or overseer be kind and gracious in his hearing towards him without condescension, and at the same time ministers to his physical wants and protects him from abuses, the Negro is spellbound and cannot run away.
Okay, they do realize that okay, how do they even get that? I mean, I can, one of the things,
Don't think about it too hard. These people were not being rational.
I mean, yeah, let me pull up a video series by James Patrick Holding. I mean, I think I know what they're alluding to, but I don't know how to word it. But the abolitionists,
they're dumb.
Yeah, but the abolitionists that happen to be academically oriented just ripped into their mentality and ripped into it hard and debunked them.
But I mean, it's not difficult to debunk slavery of all things.
Even from a biblical perspective. Which is why I'm going to pull up that playlist.
Well, I'm going to have to roll that grenade and exit stage left, guys. I have really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it was awesome having you.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Likewise.
Please do.
We're not going to be talking crap about behind your back, Patrick. We're going to be like,
Please,
well,
do
maybe a
come
little
back
bit
sometime soon, Patrick.
I'm happy to
have you back.
I'm happy to continue the discussion anytime. Just a quick heads up for any listeners. We have a video coming up in the near future where we're going to be dressed in slave garb with chains around our neck going into the post office to beg our master's permission for a passport to leave to visit the next plantation. That should make for some interesting video. I will also be speaking at Anarchapulco this year, hopefully, if I get my slaves hall pass to visit the next plantation to go to Mexico. So those are the next two big things coming up for me. Again, I appreciate the invitation. I've enjoyed it.
That video.
See ya.
That'll be epic.
That sounds glorious. All right.
Take it easy,
See ya.
guys.
You too.
Okay, you too. Bye, Pat.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Yeah, I gotta go as
just
well.
I just uploaded
Okay,
the playlist.
Heretic, thanks for coming.
You're welcome. New
right,
video
see ya.
for you viewers. New video tomorrow on the NRA and why they are stupid assholes.
Isn't it tomorrow right now?
Tomorrow, as
Isn't
in
it tomorrow past noon? I mean, it's past midnight.
for me. Well, yeah, it is past midnight, but I mean like later today then.
Yeah.
So I don't know, 18 hours. Yeah, new video. It's pretty glorious. All right, bye.
Awesome. Bye.
Okay, bye.
I'm gonna get going too. I'll talk to you guys another time.
Okay, Arcana,
Okay.
thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, it was
All right.
fun.
Yep.
All
Yeah.
right.
Good night.
You too.
And now it's just us three.
Yep.
Yeah, anyway, there's the playlist right there in the group chat.
All right. I'll be sure to put all these links down after the stream.
Yeah, because James Patrick Holding, one of the things he does best in Christian apologetics is examine the cultural concepts as well as the words involved, and rips into the fundamentalist understandings of verses. I mean, he's just that good. I mean, he's just that brilliant. He can look up the academic literature and rip into the misinformation people spread about the Bible and Christianity.
Hmm.
And he rips
Hang on,
into
Marianne,
fundamentalists too.
Hang on, is it off? Is the stream down?
No, not yet. I'm thinking of ending it. First, thank yous. Like all the thank yous. Thank you to Zachary and Revan, Heretic, Patrick, Arcano, Night Shift, Koi Monster. Who else?
There was Crow,
Yeah, and Crow.
Malam.
And
Can't forget him.
Malum. Yeah, thank you for all who showed up. It was a lot of fun, and thank you.
There was Night Shift too.
Yeah, I already mentioned Night Shift.
Okay, sorry.
And thank you for the awesome people who showed up in the chat room. SO and Ancapistani, Tech Helicopter Cat, Node, interesting person, and Legitimus Society, and Bicky,
Guy.
and one of those guys in Verbal Armament. Yep, thank you for all coming. All right, and have a good night.
Yeah, see ya.
Yep, see ya on Thursday's daytime stream.
Cheers, bud.
Yep.
June.